I don't spend a lot of time with regret. There's not much that you can do about it. Yeah. It's happened. So the way I look at regret is, what did I learn from it?
The only way I can answer that question about why did I want to do it is because that is what my goal was. When I was told no, it made me want it 100-fold.
My biggest fear in life is if there is a final resting place in this world and you talk to something much bigger than you. I don't want to sit down and have a conversation with someone that says, you're in heaven, this is what you should have been on earth. Are you really in heaven now, or are you in hell?
We all have big goals and dreams, but sometimes we fail at accomplishing them. That's why in this video, I sit down with some of the top Navy SEALs in the world to talk about how to become disciplined and achieve any goal you have.
God put me in a very interesting spot of life where he made hell my teacher. He made hell my teacher. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I'm trying to give people a different thought process of life where failure, hell, disappointment, discomfort is a great learning tool. And many people don't understand that. And a lot of people won't even understand this interview when we get done with it. But it's these few moments in life that you have. Like for me, I always talk about it. Rocky 1, round 14. That 1 2-minute and 13-second clip of Rocky getting up when Apollo knocked him down. That one clip, when I was going through a very bad time in my life, I saw what I wanted to be. And it wasn't a guy that won. It wasn't a guy that won everything he did. It was a guy that kept getting up after being knocked down. So I realized if that 2 minutes and 13 seconds changed my life, that's all it was. I saw something that I needed to be in the world I was living in. Maybe my story will give someone the 2 minutes and 13 seconds they need to change their life. Millions of people live in a very comfortable place. That's fine. Don't listen to me. A lot of people are looking for that 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And I might be that person. That's why I started sharing it.
Yeah, you talked about in the very beginning, I like this. What did you say here? Your job is to be the best of your ability. This will hurt. The mission is not about making yourself feel better. The mission is about being better and having a greater impact in the world. And it sounds like you understanding the fact that you need to put yourself out there a little bit more is going to reach more people and impact more people, as opposed to always being quiet.
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing
exactly.
you say?
I had to find a happy medium.
Yeah.
You know, I had to find a happy medium because what's the point? Like, we all have a story. And I believe that we're all teachers. We're all teachers. And if you don't learn something and give back like what you learned, what's the point of living?
And you're wasting.
Yeah, you're wasting it. You have all this knowledge of what you learned. Some people may think you're crazy. Some people may put a title on you, but it is those few people who are like, you know what, I need to hear that. So you have to put yourself out there.
So was there an awakening for you in the last few years that said, okay, I'm not doing this enough. I'm putting myself out there. I'm not telling my story. I'm wasting certain aspects of my life by not giving that message out?
There were a lot of emails that came in to me, and I didn't realize, when you live your life, you don't know what it's doing to people because it's my life. I didn't know my life was as bad as it was because it's my life. It's what I went through.
I think it's like the norm.
It's the norm.
Yeah.
That's what I did, man. But when I started getting these emails from people saying, hey, you know what? You changed my life. That part changed my life. That part of your story changed my life. And because I have so many different parts of my life that so many people resonate with different spots. Maybe it's the obese part. Maybe it's the bullying part. Maybe it's the learning disability part. Maybe it's the abusive parent part. Whatever it may be.
Right.
So many people draw from my story, and I started getting these emails. And I was like, God, man, and I'm a big believer in something more powerful than me. I don't know what it is, but I'm not the end all. So I was like, I got to start doing more. If I'm touching these people's lives,
a few people here and there.
Maybe I need to go out here and do some more.
It's a crazy story, man. I mean, if you guys haven't gotten the book, you guys can pre-order the book. This is actually a galley copy here, printed out. Make sure you guys check this out. Can't Hurt Me. Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. And when I was reading the first part of the book about your childhood, I mean, your father just seemed like was just so abusive physically. I mean, it's one thing to be emotionally abusive and another thing to be physically. And when you have both, it's like the perfect storm of like the makings for chaos in your life.
Right.
And it just sounded like he was just nasty. Nasty, and everything was your fault, and you were always wrong, and you weren't living up to a standard, both you and your brother and your mom.
Right.
And it was just constant physical abuse over and over. I mean, the story of you just being bent over and him just like whipping you over and over, and you just gasping for air. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Right.
How did you deal with that? How did you like overcome the constant physical and emotional abuse?
You know what? It's all I knew. So when you're born to that, it's all you know. You know something's not right, because in my mind, as a young kid, I could tell, man, the way I was processing things wasn't right.
Right.
I mean, I suffered from severe toxic stress, and that was one of the big reasons why I started. I had a learning disability. My focus in life was way off. I was afraid. I was afraid of everything, and when you have that kind of foundation, growing up. And that's where you start life at, is being beat, being abused, and also working all night at a skating rink, not going to school. And you have a guy who's an alcoholic, and the second he got drunk, he got mad. And so our house lived in fear.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you can't ever get out of a kid's mind is your mom's mind, like your mom's face.
The terror.
Of your mom's
That's the
face.
worst.
So I didn't care about my brother. I didn't care about me, but I saw this woman go from Mary Poppins, the sweetest person on the planet Earth, and when you see your mom start to transform to a shell, to a person whose face becomes stoic, a person who has no emotion, and that changes a kid.
Yeah.
And when you're young, and you have to grow up so fast. So by 8 years old, my mind was of us 40-year-olds at 8. My family, like life came at me, and it makes your brain, you're not outside playing with kids. You're trying to avoid getting beat.
Yeah.
You're avoiding all these things.
Yeah. Then you go home, it's supposed to be safe.
Right.
And you're getting beat again.
Exactly. And what's funny about that, we lived on Paradise Road.
Yeah.
We lived on Paradise Road. And it
wasn't so paradise.
No, it was anything but paradise, man. Once those doors shut,
yeah.
My dad gave everybody a different view of him.
He wore the nice tailored
That's
suits.
right.
He smiled.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your dad's amazing. Those doors shut, man, and the devil himself came out. So it was rough, and that's why my foundation was so beaten down at a young age.
So learning disability, I grew up dyslexic, so I can relate to that of
Right.
just like constantly feeling stupid and insecure. And
Right.
I had a tutor my entire life.
Horrible.
Until I finished college, I had a tutor.
Right.
Second grade reading level when I was in 8th grade. It was just like a constant struggle
Right.
emotionally. And I took that outlet into sports and said, I'm going to just train myself to be the best I can be in a place where I can learn something differently.
Right.
And pick up a different skill. But with your learning disability, with your dad beating you, screaming at you, emotionally challenging your mind, with the racism you dealt with the different struggles you felt, with bullies, what was the hardest obstacle to overcome from up until about 15, 16?
The hardest obstacle was myself. I started realizing more and more and more that all these people were gone. What was haunting me was me. I can't control my dad. I can't control the people calling me nigger. I can't control all these things. But they were things that kept me down. It started becoming my reality. My reality was what they made it out to be. And I became the most important conversation you'll ever have with your life, in your life, is when you have yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And my conversation was absolutely horrifying.
What were you saying to yourself?
I'm dumb. I'm nobody. My dad was great in mental warfare. A drunk, insecure man will make everybody around him feel like hell.
Yeah.
Because he wants to give you no power. And that's why he was so me and my mom and myself and my brother, because he didn't want anybody to get above him. He wanted to keep you down low. So when you're growing up with all of this stuff, all this hate, and it wasn't the beatings. I could take the beatings all day. It was the mental torture. So when at a young age, your parents put a dialogue in you of confidence or you're nobody. So that voice in my head was, I'm a loser. And then it was confirmed when I got in school, and in 3rd grade, I was falling behind. They want to put me in a special school.
Yeah.
With kids who can't learn.
Right.
Then it was confirmed what my dad was saying. So that confirmed it. Then I started cheating. So I started realizing, I'm taking the easy way out again.
Yeah.
And it started snowballing from there. Now the kids are calling me nigger. But it wasn't all the kids. So what happens is you start to get this picture that everybody hates you, because your reality becomes so big that you can't see the clear picture.
It might have been 3 or 4
That's
kids
it.
doing it over and over.
Right, but it was the whole town.
Yeah.
Everybody hated me. So
The world hates me.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's when it became toxic. And that is where I became my worst enemy.
Wow. So those are the conversations.
Those are
you
the
have.
conversations.
When did you start to realize that those conversations weren't supporting your life?
So my mom was getting ready to get married, and this guy came into our lives. His name was Wilmuth. He came into our life. And we moved back to Brazil. So we moved from this small town in Brazil, and we moved to Indianapolis, Indiana. A lot more blacks, a lot more different colors.
Yeah. Weren't you living in New York at some point too?
I was born in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And I went from Buffalo to Indiana, and then from Indiana to Indianapolis, Indiana.
Got it.
Indianapolis, Indiana, he got murdered when I was in Indianapolis. We went back to Brazil. When we went back to Brazil, this is when the racism started.
Really?
Because now I'm 16. So when I was first in Brazil, I was 8 and 9. Wow. Kids don't care.
Yeah.
You're just a kid. I look different, but kids don't care.
Yeah.
Kids don't know. But when I moved and I came back, I'm no longer a kid. So all the kids I grew up with, I'm now different. I'm different. So there's about 5 black kids in my school. And the reality came when I came out one day and on my car was spray painted, "Nigger, we're gonna kill you."
Oh my gosh. In Brazil?
In Brazil.
In Portuguese?
No, my fault. Brazil, Indiana.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, my fault. Brazil, Indiana.
I was like, oh, well, you went to Brazil.
No.
I was like,
no, Brazil, Indiana.
Brazil, Indiana.
Yes,
From
Brazil,
Indianapolis
Indiana.
to Brazil, Indiana. Got it.
So I was in Brazil, Indiana, and about 10 minutes from Brazil, Indiana is a small town called Center Point, Indiana. And Center Point, Indiana was at that time a huge hub of the KKK.
Wow.
In 1995, the Klan marched on the 4th of July parade. And I don't know if the pictures in, I don't know if any pictures are in there, but if not, there's a picture in the book in 1995, 10 minutes from my house, of crosses being burnt.
10 minutes from your house?
10 minutes from my house.
Wow.
So when you have all this negativity growing up, and now you're cheating and you're doing this, and your dad beats you, and your mom's fiance gets murdered, and tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and then you come to this. And your mom's working 3 jobs. She's not home at all. She never saw one report card of mine. She didn't know how bad off I was in school. She was hustling, trying to make money. And I was the man of the house, lying, sneaking around, not going to school, cheating, everything I could.
Yeah.
And so I walked out of school one day and saw this "nigger, we're gonna kill you" on my car. And I went in to get the principal. There's several incidents like this that happen. I went to get the principal, and the principal, he didn't have anything. He couldn't give me any advice. And I didn't want to tell my mom about it because my mom was already bothered by my dad beating her down, and now her fiance got murdered. So I didn't want to bother her.
The last thing on her mind. Yeah. She's like, I've dealt with this my whole life.
Right. I didn't want to bother her with anything, man. So I kept everything away from her. Oh. So I'm in the car wash trying to scrub this stuff off, and I got home, and so happens 2 weeks later she gets a note from school. And the note says, "Your son is going to fail. He's not going to graduate." And she's like, "What is this?" And I had to come clean with my mom of all the years of me cheating, of all the bullying, of all this and all that. And she was such in a bad spot in her life that the best thing she could do was like, "Hey, you're going to fail. You're going to fail school."
Wow.
And I was like, my God, man, like, you know, she was in a dark place and I was in a dark place, and we were kind of on our own in the same house, but living different lives. And I realized at this time in my life, she was a great mom, but I was on my own. And that's when the real big change happened for me. So I said, I'm going to join the military.
This is 17.
17, 8, you know, I wanted to go into the delayed entry program. And I went to take the ASVAB test, and I cheated. So
that's what you knew.
That's what I did.
You're good.
So I got my friend, because I walked into the recruiter's office, and the recruiter says, hey, you got to take this ASVAB test. Second I heard test, I was like, man, oh, hang on a second.
I can't test and save my life, man.
I'm going to go. Can I come back tomorrow?
Yeah.
So I come back, and the recruiter starts handing these tests out. And I'm like, great, I'm going to sit by my boy. I'm going to copy off my boy. He had a different test than I did.
Ooh.
So I couldn't copy off him.
Yeah.
And that's when the light bulb hit on. So I failed this test several times.
You failed twice?
I failed it twice. I actually failed it. I failed it twice. And the third time, I said, Mom, I need help.
Wow.
And she said, we don't have much money, but we can afford a tutor for 1 hour a week for 6 months, because this is my last time taking the test. And so I had to learn. So I had a third grade reading level. I'm a junior in high school.
Yeah.
So what may take you an hour to learn, it took me hours, 6, 8, 9, 10 hours. I had to write the same thing down. Simple stuff.
I hear you, man.
So I started memorizing. Yeah.
That's my life.
So I had to memorize.
Yeah.
So I didn't really learn it. I could just recall it from writing it down so many times that on page 71, I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. And I ended up passing that test.
Crazy.
And I got in the military. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
What was the greatest lesson your mom taught you growing up?
Honestly, the greatest lesson she ever taught me is a lesson that she doesn't know how much she taught me, because she wasn't much in the teaching mode. My dad took her soul. But what I did as a young kid is I observed everybody. And she didn't sit down and tell me. I realized this. This is the world that is in front of me. And what most people do is they see this world and they look at it as an excuse to get out of it.
Yeah.
I started looking at it as this is the ultimate training ground for the rest of my life. I have all these valuable lessons, because if you look out in the world right now today, it's not a nice place. But I'm very prepared for it.
Yeah, you are.
I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for all the failure coming my way. I'm prepared for everything my way. And that's the biggest lesson that she taught me by not teaching me. By never saying it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, she told me the exact opposite. Life sucks. That's what she knew. And it was the truth.
That was her reality.
That was her reality.
Yeah.
And so I saw that. And so I started at that point in my life. I have a lot more failures, as you see in that book. But I started down the road of, instead of the path of, least resistance, I started choosing the path of most resistance to prepare myself for the journey that was coming my way.
Wow. And most kids don't prepare themselves for the most resistance.
No.
They want to get out of things.
They want to get out of things.
Get off the hook.
Right.
Don't put in the extra reps.
Right.
They want the easiest path to get to the top, right?
Right, exactly.
It's the same thing with leadership. If I'm trying to force my plan down my team's throat, the more resistance I'm going to get from it. Whereas if I plant the seed and I allow that plan to grow with them, the better it's going to be received. Like when people ask me, how do you get people to buy in? Well, you allow them to come up with a plan yourself.
What if in your mind you're like, you really know that plan's not that good?
It depends on how bad it is. How bad is it? Or what's at stake? If you're working for me and you're going to meet with a client and you have a bad pitch that you're going to give them, and the client is some tiny client that I think is a low probability of us working with, and the contract doesn't really matter, I'd be like, hey, give it a shot. Here's a couple, I might give you a couple adjustments and give you some coaching on it. And then you go and you do your thing and you come back and you're like, oh no, we didn't land it. And I say, well, what do you think? Let's debrief. And now we talk about it. I said, you said this and you said that. Here's some other ways to go about it. I might even actually have you do it to me. So then I could sit there and take some notes and say, hey, here's some other things that might have worked. Now, if you were going to meet with a big client that really was going to add value to our company, I'm gonna either
step in,
I'm gonna step in and be like, okay, let's think about that. What's their reaction going to be? And by the way, that's when I'm not going to say no, don't do it that way. I'm going to say, Give me that. Tell me that again, and let me give you some objections that you might hear from them.
That's good.
And all of a sudden, I'll let you come up with the solutions. Even though I'm sitting there going, yeah, what he needs to say is this. No, I'll let you come up with a solution. So then you're kind of going in there like you got this dialed, and then you're going to feel like you won, which you did.
That's great.
Which is great.
It gives you more ownership, more respect in yourself, confidence, belief. How important is feedback for leaders? Getting feedback from peers, coaches, or employees, team members.
Feedback is how you get better. No feedback, no improvement. So if you're not humble, you're not looking for feedback and you're not listening to it. So if you think you know everything, you're not listening, you're definitely not asking for it, and even when it gets told to you, you don't listen to it.
Yeah.
So feedback is built upon being humble.
What would you say is in your way to getting to the next level? What feedback do you think you need to hear or receive from your team or people in order to reach the next goals that you have?
I mean, the weird thing about me is, even though you might look at me and think, oh, who's going to tell this guy anything, right? The reality is, if anyone of my friends, my team, anyone that works for me up and down the chain of command, if they think I'm wrong, everyone will say, hey, I don't know if that's a good plan. So even, when I was a task unit commander, so I'm in charge, and I'm the head SEAL for this 40 SEALs. I'm the main guy.
Yeah.
Anyone in that chain of command, those guys would all come to me and say, hey, I don't know if this is a good way to do it. And you know what I'd say? Why not? What do you think? What are you thinking? How do you think we should do it? My mind is open. If my plan is bad, please tell me. They would know that. So my friends, my family, they'll tell me when I'm doing something wrong all day long.
They're not intimidated or scared of you?
No.
That's good.
No.
So how does a leader cultivate that with his family, friends, team, in order to welcome the feedback of the information?
Yeah, what you do is when somebody gives you feedback, you listen to it. Yeah. This is like, just the other day we have a leadership event that we do 2 or 3 times a year. But the thing that I was telling this group of people was, as a leader, you should be listening 98% of the time and talking 2% of the time. So every time you come to me and you say, hey, Jocko, I don't like this plan. I don't say shut up and do it my way. No, I say, well, how would you want to do it?
Yeah.
Tell me what you don't like about it, and then tell me how you want to do it. So therefore, the next time you have an objection, you're like, the door's open. You know that I'm going to be open-minded and listen to you, and that's how you build it. Every time you shut someone down from speaking their mind, you actually are creating a negative environment where you're not going to get the feedback. And if there's no feedback, as we just said, you're not going to improve.
What are 2 things that any leader could do to improve their leadership skills right off the bat? 2 things you can think of. And what are 2 things that wannabe leaders do that hold them back from being great leaders? So what are 2 things they could add to our
2 things that you have. Number 1 is listen, which we just talked about, so that's fresh on my mind. Yeah. And you'd be surprised about how many leaders are thinking that because they're in a leadership position, they should be talking all the time. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. I'll sit through a meeting with a client or with one of my companies and I'll listen for 38 minutes. And at the end of those 38 minutes, I'll have already thought through every discussion that's been had. You want to argue with him and he's arguing with her. And guess what? I get to sit there and assess those arguments and see which one is the most important. Meanwhile, you're expending all your ammunition. She's expending all her ammunition. He's given up everything he's got. I'm learning all their thought patterns. I'm learning the pros and cons of each one of their arguments. And I do that for 38 minutes. And in the 39th minute, I say, hey, here's what I think we should do. And guess what? Because I've done an accurate assessment and listened, I'm actually going to be able to make the best decision.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I was smarter. It wasn't because I had better tactical understanding. It's because I actually shut my mouth, listened to everyone spill their guts, learned everything that they knew, and did a good detached assessment of what the right thing to do was. So listen, and the other one is the word that I just used, which is detach, which is not getting emotional, not getting into the weeds about stuff that doesn't matter. If you can take a step back and look around, you're going to see infinitely more than you can when you're in the weeds, staring the firefight in the face, looking down the sights of your weapon, shooting. If you're doing that, you can't see anything else. Just think about that metaphor right there.
Yeah.
If I'm looking down the sights of my weapon and I'm shooting, my world is this big. The minute that I stop shooting, point my weapon at high port, take a step back, and actually look around, I can see infinitely more. So apply that to a meet. This is the meeting that we just talked about. A 38-minute meeting. All this chaos is happening. Sure, I'm the boss. I could jump in there and start arguing and giving my opinion. But what am I really doing then? What I'm really doing then is I'm in the weeds and I'm not able to assess what is actually happening. So there you apply it there. To your personal life. If you and I are arguing, you're my friend and you did something and now we're starting to escalate an argument and I'm starting to get emotional, am I able to listen to you anymore? Am I able to logically figure out what's going on? If I'm talking to my wife and she did something that made me mad and now I'm starting to raise my voice, is that whole situation going in the right direction? No, it's not. It's not. So what I need to do is take a step back, detach, calm down, listen to what she's saying, and then try and assemble a logical thing to say back without saying, you need to calm down or you're too emotional. No. Because if you come to me and you're mad about something, you come to me, whether it's my wife or whether you're a business partner, you come to me and you say, the supply department didn't give me the stuff I needed. If I say, hey, calm down, right? If that's my reaction, then you realize that I'm against you, right? I don't get it. And so now it's me and the supply department against you.
No one understands.
No one understands. So I do a little technique.
What is that? Yeah.
I call it reflect and diminish. So I'm going to reflect your emotions back to you, but I'm going to diminish them a little bit so that we're not escalating the situation.
How would you do this with your wife?
So if you come to me and you go, the supply department's been late, they're 2 weeks late on this stuff. I don't say calm down. I say, oh, you got to be kidding me. 2 weeks? And you go, yeah, can you believe it? That's horrible. We got to put a solution. We got to get that figured out. In the meantime, what do we need to do right now to get the problem solved, right? So now we're on the same team so we can work together to find a
We
solution.
bonded on the pain.
Yes.
You felt the pain.
Yes. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
Okay, my wife, what's going to make my wife mad? The ice machine's not working. Right? The ice machine's not working.
It's your fault.
Yeah, whether it's my fault, but we don't know. The ice machine's not working. By the way, this is a real story. This is happening today.
Really?
The ice machine's not working. And she didn't get mad about it, but the ice machine's not working. If I go, hey,
chill out.
You have a refrigerator and a house, and you got
live on the
plenty of things.
beach.
You just calm down,
Yeah.
right? How's that going to go? It's not going to go good. Now she's going to get mad. Now it's me against her. So instead, the ice machine's not working. Man, that thing is junk. Have you called the repair guy? You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden we're on the same team, and she's like, well, no, I haven't, but I'm about to. Okay, cool. As opposed to the ice machine's not working. Well, okay, do you want me to have ice shipped in from Alaska there, princess? Right? That's not going to go over well. So
what would you call it?
Reflect and diminish.
Reflect and diminish.
diminish.
What if someone's coming after you and attacking you? Not like the supply chain or the ice machine, but it's like, you didn't do this.
Oh, yeah.
This is your fault.
I want you to guess what I'm going to do.
What's that?
What do you guess I'm going to do? If you come and attack me and tell me something's my fault, what do you think I'm going to do?
You personally?
Yes.
You would listen.
Yes.
Reflect and diminish.
I would actually
detach.
Detach, yes.
How do you detach your emotions from someone coming after you emotionally, even if it was or wasn't your fault?
Well, there's a couple things that you've asked me now in the last couple minutes. No, it's all good because it's
exciting.
Because I can see like your mind is spinning here. You're absorbing and you're like, oh, this makes sense. If you're attacking my ego, immediately, as soon as I feel frustrated, angry, defensive, all three of those things are red flags to me that's my ego.
Okay.
I immediately know. I go when I feel my bristling.
Like you wanna...
when I feel that, I know I guarantee it's 99% it's just my ego that I'm mad.
So what do you do in that moment?
I immediately go, oh, that's your ego, you idiot. Listen to what he's got to say. Let's win. Let's win. So how do I win? Do I win by attacking you?
No.
No, I don't win by attacking you.
If you're the only winner, you both lose.
Yes. So when you attack me,
you both need to win.
And you say, whatever your attack is, you say, this is your fault. I go, you know what? Absolutely. This is my fault. Wow. Here's the mistake that I made. And I know it affected you in a negative way. Here's the things that I'm working on right now to remedy it. Wow. What are you going to do? Are you going to yell at me more? Are you going to tell me it's my fault again? Like
A crazy person might say a couple more times.
Yeah, and a crazy person, I'll be like, yeah, I know. This, I get this. This is another question I get when it's sort of like similar to what you said earlier, when you said, yeah, but what if it's not really your fault, right? The other one I get a lot is if you say, hey, listen, Lewis, this is my fault that this happened. And you go, you're right, it is your fault. And then people say, what do I do then? What do I do then? If the person's blaming me, how do I take ownership then? And I'm like, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Right.
The whole point of taking ownership is when you look at me and you point your finger and you say, this is all your fault. I say, yes, I know, that's what I just said. This is absolutely my fault. I'm the one that's in charge, and these are the things that I'm gonna do to fix it. That's where we're gonna start.
Wow.
So when someone blames you, yes, take ownership. Now, if you have in the back of your mind, like you did earlier, like, hey, maybe this isn't really my fault.
Yeah.
Like if you have that in the back of your mind, you're actually wrong.
Wow.
You're actually wrong. You're in charge. And that applies to your life as well. That applies to your life as well. How you got to take ownership of what's going on in your life. When you're not where you want to be and you say it's because the boss doesn't like you, or it's because the girl treated you this way, or the guy did this, like all those things, you got to take ownership of them.
Yeah.
And if you're blaming all these other external things, you're not going to make any changes. And that's going to be a problem.
Before we continue this video, make sure to subscribe below and turn on the notification bell right now so you don't miss out on these great videos every single day.
That's the whole thing with this training, or really anything in life, Lewis. It could be running an ultra marathon, it could be starting a business, it could be SEAL training. So other than that day, and that day was all mental, the biggest reason that people quit any of those things I just talked about is because they look at they're looking at the big picture, man. So like with SEAL training, there's no single evolution that's that difficult.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it's 4-mile runs and 2-mile swims, and it's nothing that you couldn't get up from this table and go do right now. But the guys that quit, they couldn't break it down like into digestible pieces.
1 hour at a time, one moment
That's
at a
it,
time,
brother.
one day at a time,
Yep.
one step at a time, one breath at a time.
Yeah.
It seems so overwhelming. You're like, if I can't do this right now, if I'm struggling this moment, how am I going to take on all of this, right? 6 months, 4
Yep.
months, 3 months. And so we become overwhelmed and in fear as opposed to just one step at a time.
That's it, bro. I remember an evolution during Hell Week. All it was a 1-mile repeat. The instructors just got everybody together and said, all you got to do is run 1 mile over and over again until we tell you to stop. There's no time standards. There's no.
You could walk if you wanted.
could walk. I mean, you had to look like you were running, but you could walk. So I'm out here like, heck yeah, dude. All I got to do is run 1 mile at my own pace on a sunny beach on Coronado Island. Like, this is amazing.
No sprinting,
Nobody's
no time,
bothering
yeah.
me.
It's like vacation.
Yeah, man. But that was the single evolution during Hell Week where we lost the most guys. And it was because of what we just talked about. They could not, certain people just could not focus on that mile, dude. All they could think about was all the miles in front of them, which they didn't know if this was the last one or not. So they looked at it as a big picture, and they just couldn't handle it. And really, it was the easiest evolution that we did in all of Hell Week.
Do you remember how many miles you actually ran?
Dude, I have no clue. And what the instructors do, they just keep it going until enough people quit.
And then like, okay.
And then they call it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And just they're like, okay, we're going to do 10 miles, 15, 20 miles, whatever, until many people quit.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing, dude, about it. And I take that now into like ultra running and even 3 of 7, the business model for 3 of 7 and all that we have going on with that. It's just like, conquer what's like right in front of you. Mm-hmm. And if you can stay in that mindset, on an ultra race, when I'm 95 miles deep into a race and I've got to climb a 2,000-foot mountain, how you think I do it, bro?
One step at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I pick a tree 20 yards ahead of me, and I get to that tree, and then I pick another tree, and then eventually I'm at the summit, you know.
How do you manage your mind and the thoughts of, man, I've got 5 more miles, or however many more miles to go, how many more hours to go, days to go, and this is freaking hard. How do you manage the mind that wants to tell you to stop when it seems like there's so much ahead of you, but you're just going 10 feet at a time? How do you do that? When you're tired, when you're hurting, when you're exhausted, or you just don't get tired?
No. That's a mantra we use, right? And yeah, we can talk about that later. But for me, bro, it's like, if you will push yourself hard, hard enough, you reach this place. I call it the steady state, and it's where it's not going to hurt any worse, and it's not going to get any harder. It's the steady state, man.
It's going to stay hard.
It's going to just stay just like that. That's exactly right. And it's almost like for me, it's almost like a primal feeling. Like everything else is stripped away, and all I have to deal with is this pain, physical pain that I'm feeling, and for me it's a beautiful thing, man. So I don't...
To feel the pain?
Well, to reach that steady state where everything's just boiled down and it's just so simple, dude.
You're not stressing about who's calling you, what's happening at home, friends,
That's
war.
it, brother. Yeah.
You're not stressed about that stuff. You're focused on one thing.
Yeah, and so I guess one way that I manage that, I like getting to that point in the first place. But some way that I guess you could say that I manage that pain is I stop fighting against it.
Ooh. How?
I literally just tell myself, I accept this.
Wow.
And I almost just like in my mind's eye, I see it passing through me.
The pain.
The pain. And you can use this with all different types of things that are uncomfortable, like cold. If you will stop fighting against it, it diminishes its power. But as long as you're fighting against the pain, or you're using your energy to fight against the cold, it's going to continue to gain traction and power over your mind.
Yeah.
So it's just forcing yourself to let go and stop fighting against that discomfort and just rock and roll, man.
So for the everyday human being who does a 5-mile run, or maybe there's someone going extreme into an ice tub for 2 minutes, and they feel pain after a few miles, or that first minute in the ice tub, how would you process that mentally or in your mind's eye when you're entering the ice, when you're going to that 5-mile run where it starts to hurt, you get the cramps, you get the heartaches, sweating? What would you do in that moment? Obviously for you, that's like 50 to 100 miles, but for the everyday human, how would you approach that mentally? Like a process so we could understand. I understand of like surrendering and letting it go through you, but what's a strategy we could implement, you think?
Well, I mean, I think the strategy to implement that particular thing about not fighting against it, I think, is that you could speak it out loud. I talk to myself all the time, and that's something I'm so adamant about, is the spoken word. So, you know, whatever works best for you, you know what I mean? Of course, I have some that I use on my own, but that's, for me, that would be the number one tool to kind of manage that pain.
A spoken mantra out loud.
The spoken word.
Not an internal mantra or a whisper, but actually saying it, you think?
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, yeah. It has to be said out loud. Yeah.
Okay. Were you going to say something else?
No,
Sorry.
I'm good, brother.
What's the killer of getting through hard challenges in your mind? What's the thing that kills most individuals once it starts to get hard and they stop?
Negativity, man. Yeah.
The thought process, words.
It's not necessarily the negative thought, because we can't control our thoughts, obviously, all the time. We're going to have thoughts in our head that pop up that we don't want to be there. But it's when you give those thoughts power through the things that you say. So I give you an example. One of my best friends going through SEAL training, he came to me one morning and he said he had been, I could tell he had been in a bad place mentally, but he was doing fine, progressing through training. But he came to me one morning and he said out loud for the first time, I don't think I'm good enough to make it through this training anymore, which was a lie. He was completely physically capable of doing every single thing that we had to do that day and every other day. But when he came and said that, it gave those thoughts that he had, what do you call it? Like lack of confidence, or you know, those thoughts that he was having that he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough traction to stop him until he came and told me that out loud.
Spoke it into existence.
He spoke it out loud. Yeah,
So
man.
you might be thinking, am I good enough to do this? Can I make it through? Maybe I'm not as strong as these guys. These guys are more talented. But once you start saying it to someone else out loud, that's when your body starts to believe it even stronger, and it gets harder and harder to go back into a confident place, I'm assuming.
That's it, brother. Yeah, so like when he told me that, it was just like seconds later he was going to ring the bell.
Really?
Yeah, like, and there was nothing that I could do to stop him. Like,
It's like he finally believed it 100% and he was out.
yeah.
Just don't say it and you're half the way there, right? If you like just don't say it, you have a chance.
That's it, brother. That's it. And so your tongue is the thing. I compare it to a rudder. A rudder is the main control surface that steers a ship, steers the direction of a ship. Your tongue is your rudder. It's going to steer the direction of your life and the outcomes of your situations 98% of the time.
So what you say is pretty important.
Yeah, it's paramount to me, bro. I mean, that's like, I take this to such an extreme that I don't curse.
I know.
I'm a Christian, but not cursing is not a Christian thing. It's because none of those words in and of themselves have a positive meaning. So why am I going to use them? So for me, it is paramount, dude. The things that we say, yes.
Did you ever come to a place where you started saying negative things to yourself during BUD/S training or as a SEAL, where you had to catch yourself, or have you always been clear with your words to yourself?
I have not always been clear with my words to myself. I became more conscious about the power of my words throughout life and doing really, really hard stuff, to where, you know, I've put myself in enough situations with other people around me to see the power of the spoken word actually work, not only in my own situations, but in the men around me or women around me in racing, you know?
Yeah.
So every time I see it work, I'm like, holy smokes, this is powerful, this is powerful. Well, then finally I started going on some podcasts and telling people that it works. And then now I get hundreds of messages a month of people saying, oh my gosh, this works.
What are the words we should never say to ourselves, and what should we say to ourselves every day?
You know, I think that's really individualized, man. I mean, as far as the words that you should never say to yourself, it's going to be dependent on the situation you're in, you know what I mean? And then the things that you're saying to yourself, you know, a big one for me is I will not die in the chair. That's a huge mantra, you know, that I use. I won't die in the chair, and that has a whole meaning and story behind it.
What's the brief meaning?
So that was born out of that last man standing race that I did a few months. Well, no, it was back in May, where I was running. You know, we had to run 4.16 miles every hour on the hour. Each one of those hours I would dedicate to a fallen brother in the SEAL teams. And
Their actual names?
yeah, I had a wrist coach that I was wearing, and I would have their, a index card with their face, name, their family's names, their
way.
date of sacrifice. And so
Holy cow, that probably gave you a lot more power and
it
strength.
did, man. But it gave me a lot more pressure too, dude, because each one of these laps was for this guy, and some of those guys were guys that I had spent a lot of time with. You know what I mean? So the way that race worked, there was no definitive finish line. You just kept running until only one runner was left standing. Mm-hmm. So I could not promise my brothers that I would win. I couldn't promise them victory because I didn't know if my body would break, or I didn't know. I didn't know where the race was going to end. So, but I could promise them that if I died in death, meaning death within a situation, not physical death, but death in this scenario would be of my race. If that time came, I would die out on the race course battling for every step that I took.
Not on the chair.
I won't die in the chair. That's exactly
Sitting around
right.
waiting.
Yep. So at the end of each one of these laps, there was a chair. So if I came in off the lap in 55 minutes, I could sit down for 5 minutes. And it was hard. A lot of people died in the chair that day,
They're
dude.
like, I'm done.
Because it was hard to rise back up, man. For sure. So
Did you win the race?
no, I think I was the third man standing. I ran 116.5 miles. And my last lap, dude, was actually my last lap was for a good friend of mine named Blake Marston. And we lost Blake in a skydiving accident not long ago. Dude, I remember looking down at, I went out on that lap, and so it was muddy. I had tied my shoes too tight, and so my shoelaces were sawing through that large tendon in the front of my ankles.
It's painful.
Yeah, so it got to the point that I could no longer flex my toes toward my shin anymore. So every step was like I was dragging my feet like lead weights. So I went out on that lap, and I was broken, dude.
Yeah, your whole body.
But I wasn't gonna die in a chair, dude.
You were on the lap, though.
I was out on the
You fell
lap,
on the
dude.
lap, or you didn't make it back in time, and you're
I got out there, dude, and I remember looking down at Blake, and dude, I started crying.
Wow.
Because I knew at a certain point that I could not make it back in time.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, what does Blake think of me right now, and then I just had this sense of peace come over me, dude, and I could see his face in my mind's eye laughing at my poor physical state, because we always find, team guys do, we always find humor in adversity. Mm-hmm. I mean, no matter how miserable that got, we would be joking and laughing at each other. So I saw him laughing at me, and then I found a stick on the ground and hobbled my way back to the finish line.
Yeah, so you made it through. It wasn't in the time allotted. It was after the time.
It was after the time. That's
Gotcha.
right. So
116 miles. Wow.
Yeah, but you can apply. I apply that now. That don't die in the chair to all aspects of my life, man. Whether it's business or personal relationships or marriages or you name it, dude.
So you have a mantra, and you'll say this mantra out loud or internally every day when you feel it gets tough. Yeah,
it's used as a counterpunch, dude, to those negative thoughts.
You know what's funny? Like mantras are talked about a lot in kind of the spiritual meditation communities. But you're this hardcore Navy SEAL guy who's saying the power of the spoken word, the power of a mantra, a positive mantra, is what gets you through adversity.
That's it, brother.
And that's the secret.
That's your rudder, man.
So doesn't have to be some woo-woo-y spirituality, meditation only type of thought process. This is tactical, real life strategies that get you through war, actual war.
That's it, brother.
A lot of us have been conditioned, or some of us grew up with wealth or grew up with comfort.
Right.
And so we're conditioned that way, and we grew up expecting now that things should come a lot easier.
Right. That's a damn shame.
And we get frustrated when we don't get it right.
That's right. Quickly. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm always talking about delayed gratification. Like the longer I can wait to receive gratification,
that's right,
the more fulfilled I am.
I'm a person. So when I got sick like I did, I actually had to quit this race called Badwater.
Yeah.
It was-
135 miles?
Yep,
Yeah.
through Death Valley. It was
Crazy.
2014 when I got real, real bad. I pulled out of the race at mile 50. I went to the emergency room, and the docs were like, we can't find this, we can't find that, we know what's wrong with you. When I got in that bed, so this is the crazy thing about gratification, long term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to watch grass grow by finding out this. I sat there, couldn't run a quarter mile, couldn't get out of bed. The only thought I had in my mind, I pulled out of that race. I told myself, I'm going to go back to Badwater one day and run it. I'm going to win the race. Haven't been back since. 2019. I'm not saying I'm going to win it. I'm just now in the shape to go back.
Wow.
Haven't run a 100-mile race since 2014
Wow.
because I've been that sick. I'm just now. Imagine the gratification I'm going to get by getting to the start line of that race. And what if I can win it?
Be pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
4 or 5 years, yeah. Be pretty
Imagine
sweet.
that. Of having that kind of self-discipline to every day wake up and having these setbacks where I can't even run a mile.
Wow.
But I'm thinking about running 135. I can't run 1 mile, but I'm thinking about running 135. And with that process, guess what happens? Sooner or later, you can run 10 miles. It may take a year, but it gives you more and more hope that it's possible. And I'm at the point now where, guess what? It's right around the corner.
Wow.
Most people in that time frame, in that mindset, I can't run anymore. It's over. No. It's just gonna take a little bit longer. You have to turn the negative into a positive. Because at the end of it all, if you can sit back and wait, if you can wait 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years, when you get to that point when you finish, that's the feeling for 12 years. Let's say wait 12 years to get there. That's what keeps you going, is you gotta feel, I'm doing it for 1 second.
Years of pain.
For 1 second. 1 second. Think about it. You cross the finish line, it's over. 1 second.
Most people do that, and the 1 second isn't what they thought it would be, and then they're pissed and upset, and they keep going on to the next because they never reflect back on what they did.
It's not the 1 second, it's the 12 years.
Yeah.
It's the 12 years that I want. It's not the race. It's the 12 years why you did it.
It's not the winning.
It's not the winning.
It's not what place you got.
No.
But most of us focus on,
That's right.
oh, I got to win this.
That's right.
And if I don't, I'm going to be upset. I would achieve all my athletic goals for years, and then 10 minutes later be the angriest person
That's
in
right.
the world. So angry and frustrated, nasty with people.
Yep.
And I would delay my gratification for years to achieve what I wanted.
That's right.
And I never understood that either.
Being a perfectionist is the worst thing that can happen to a person. You never live. Like when I lost that 106 pounds in like 2.5 months, whatever it took me, that was the biggest trophy of my entire life. I didn't care if I graduated Navy SEAL training. I didn't care. What I just accomplished in that time
massive.
frame, it's massive.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was no trainer. There was no like. And what's funny about this, we talk about mental toughness nowadays. It's like the biggest crave. When I grew up, it was just suck it up.
Yeah.
It was just make it happen.
Yeah.
You had to figure out. It was called figure it out, man. And all these nuggets that I gained along the way, that's what it was about. It wasn't about the trident. It wasn't about all those daggone medals. It wasn't about any of that. And that's why I hate even talking about being a SEAL, I mentioned stories. People, why don't you talk about it didn't define me? The journey getting there was harder than going through it.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing about life, man. It's that journey that makes you who you are.
Yeah. And as opposed to focusing on did I win or not,
Right.
what did I gain from the last 12 years?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so when you finish now, what do you think about? How long do you reflect back on the effort it took to accomplish that race, or
A long time.
what's days,
A long time. Weeks, years.
You'll
years.
reflect on it.
I reflect back now. There's times now where I will reflect back on my first 100-mile race.
Still today.
Still today. And it'll give me the same exact feeling. Because what I did in that first race, when I was undertrained, I did it on 4 days notice. I hadn't run more than, I think, 20 miles the whole year. And I did it to raise money for his foundation, to try to get in the bad water. What I had to pull out of myself on that so that's where that book, Live with the Seal, kind of originated. Jesse Itzler saw me at this race.
He was racing too, right?
Yeah, but he did it as a team.
Right, you did it alone.
I did it alone.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk with people about, man. I spent so much time. People always like, why do you run so much? You try to get in shape. No, the things I do in life, most of life, you're alone. You may have a whole support crew around you, but up here, you're alone. Most of the stuff I do, I'm training for those moments. Those moments when I was at mile 70 and I had 30 more miles to go, and I crapped up my back and peeing blood down my leg. I had 30 miles to go. There's only so much someone cheering can do for you.
Right.
When you start to dive back in the cellar of your mind and you're pulling out all these tactics, all these mental tactics to get through this 30 miles when you're in the worst shape of your life and no one's coming to save you, and you get through that. I want to go back there. Like when I got done with that race, I laid in the tub and my ex-wife helped me get up the stairs. And I'm laying in this tub and Coca-Cola's coming out of me. Just looks like dirt. And she's a nurse, and she's freaking out. And she puts the shower on me, and I'm looking at her, and all I want to do is call the race director up of Badwater saying I qualify for the race. And she's thinking, we got to go to the hospital. So, she's calling my mom, and my mom has a doctor friend of hers who's over, and they're freaking out. And I said, everybody, just shut up.
Wow.
Shut up. I'm in the worst pain in my entire life. And no one would ever understand this. No one. When you've gone that deep inside yourself, and all those feelings of pain that I had, I was in the worst pain of my life, ever. And some people think, man, you're just crazy. No. When you've done that, and you've figured out so much on your own, and all that pain and discomfort I had in that tub laying there, passing out, everything, was confirmation of what I just figured out. I just figured out the code. I figured out a code that many people aren't looking for. And I want it to be known. I want that feeling. This was confirmation. This was like a scientist's notes. Mm-hmm. The notes were here. The notes were all this feeling. It was a confirmation. And no one at that time could understand what I just done. I cracked the code to human potential in myself. And I was still like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable what I just did. So it's that quiet place.
Wow.
It's that place by yourself. It's those hours and years and decades by yourself in the grip of life. When life has you by the throat and choking you out, and you're sitting there calm because you're trying to figure it out. You're not panicking. You're not quitting. You're not throwing in the towel. You're saying there's a way around this. And when you figure it out, when life has you gripped in a vice, and you can figure that out, that's when you overcome. That's when you overcome. And that's why that one moment for me in that tub, I didn't want anyone to take away from me.
Wow. This is crazy, man. I love this. Do you have any fears today?
I do have a lot of fears today. But it's hard for me to call them fears anymore.
Yeah.
I don't use that word anymore. They're almost like it's another challenge.
Yeah.
Because anything that makes me feel that fear feeling is going to get overcome.
You go do it.
It's going to get conquered. That's almost like fear is my ultimate guide.
Of where you're supposed to be
of
going.
where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah.
It's my ultimate guide. So
what's the big challenge then for you then?
The biggest challenge for me is always going. I want to be comfortable.
You want to be comfortable.
Yep.
You want to sleep in a nice bed and relax.
I'm a normal human being.
You want to chill out. Yeah.
I want, and the time is going to come. It's time for everybody to get civilized. The worst thing in life that happens to a man is they get civilized, or a woman, anybody.
Yeah.
Because you lose the hunger for life.
Uh-huh.
You think you've arrived, and once you have a I've arrived mentality, that's my biggest fear. Is I get to the point where I'm at that point where life has come to me and I had that feeling of I've arrived. I now know my life, for what I know it to be, is over. Even though that's where comfort is and everything else, I found the most life in the most uncomfortable places in the world. I was the most David, the Goggins that I invented, because David Goggins was weak. I never want to get rid of Goggins. The guy I created, that weak person that used to be, the guy I created that can handle anything. You don't want to let go of that guy because you realize that guy was made. You weren't born him. And that is, when you get comfortable, Goggins starts to die. He starts to die. That one creature from the Black Lagoon that can live in a sewer, that can eat rats all day, that doesn't need water, that doesn't need sunlight, that doesn't need nothing. He can just live because he knows he can. That's a powerful human being that you never want to, it's in everybody. That's the scary thing about, that's what makes me so upset, man, is that everybody wants to put this daggone label on me. They forget the first 3 chapters of my book. They forget how this started. A lot of times, it takes someone's wife dying or something like that for them to change.
Yeah, near death.
Yeah, something. No, none of that. I wanted to figure out, is there more to this horrible feeling of feeling like a loser? Can I change this? And once you figure out I have the ability, not through your mom or your dad or through a special school, through you. You have the ability to change this. That's what makes it so mad. Once people put this title on me, you now give yourself a get out of jail free card and say, oh, he's just crazy, he's special, he's unique, he's this and that. You just saved yourself.
From not having to do the work.
From not having to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's why I want people to hear my story. I'm trying to take away all that bull crap that you want to put on me. I'm trying to make you suffer up here to know what, my God, man, he really had a hard way to go.
Wow.
There was nothing special about him. He wasn't talented. He wasn't gifted. He wasn't nothing. He wasn't nothing, and he made it. I want everybody to feel uncomfortable around me. That's it. Because I want you to go home and think about yourself.
Yeah.
Think about yourself, man, because you're leaving so much on the table for the possibilities of what you can be.
You say most people are at 40% potential. What percent are you at?
I like to say that I live in the 90 percentile, sometimes 99. 100% is dead. 100% is dead.
99 sometimes.
99 sometimes. The reason why I know 99 is because the first 5 hours of my day, I am very uncomfortable.
What do you do?
First of all, every morning I get up and people think I love to run. I don't.
That's why you do it.
That's why I do it. And people don't understand the mentality. Oh, you have to love it, man. No. Running has changed my life because every morning I know I'm going to do it. If you know every morning you do something you don't like, every morning I'm going to do it for, and guess what? If I just ran for an hour a day is 24 hours, right? What percent is that? What's 1 hour over 20? Was that 4%?
Yeah.
A small percent. But anyway, that's why I know I'm at a high level, because I'm at a not wanting to be uncomfortable. I put myself in the dungeon every day, off jump, out of bed. It starts.
Shoes on. Run.
Out of bed. While most people lose the battle in the morning, like once you leave your beautiful house, the war starts. Nowadays, it starts before you leave home. The phone rings, social media's up, the world's attacking you. If you don't control what you can to build that armor, so in the morning time, what I'm doing is I'm building my armor. It gets broken every night. I get up in the morning time, I start to build the armor. Let's run, okay? Got to do our push-ups, our sit-ups, our pull-ups. Got to go to the gym, got to do our stretch. Every morning, I'm building.
You do 1 hour in the morning of training?
Oh, no. In the morning time, I do at least an hour and a half, and then I go to the gym.
Of running?
So that's running.
Hour and a half of running.
Yes. Then I'm in the gym, and then at nighttime, every night for the last 5 to 6 years, about 5.5 years, I've only missed 2 days of stretching for 2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours a night stretching.
I've only missed 2 days in about 5.5 years.
Wow. Stretching.
Stretching.
Why stretching?
That is where so the sickness I had was my psoas muscle got real tight.
Huh.
And it caused my body, long story short, to pretty much choke me out from the inside. So when you're young, your psoas muscle is your fight or flight muscle. We're sitting down right now, we're using the hip flexor muscle.
Uh-huh.
When you're under stress, as I was my whole life, by being afraid of my father,
Tight
it's
inside,
tight.
yeah, clenched,
Your whole
yeah.
body's tight. Then I choose a job like being a Navy SEAL. It's even tighter.
Right.
And then I put myself under stress. It's just tightening, tightening, tightening. So it's a vice grip. And you need healthy blood flow through your body. I wasn't getting any of that. So I pushed so hard. In life, people say, oh, because you ran so much. No. Sorry. Life.
Emotional stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emotional stress made me just tight. So now, I couldn't sit down here for 10 seconds. And I'd be like, I was wound. What that's done to me is allowed me to be even more open-minded. I stretch out. I get my body lengthened out. It lengthens my mind out. The possibilities out. I calm myself down. So during the morning time, I build the armor. I face the world. Because now I know there's going to be some disappointments along the way every day.
Yeah.
So that's life. But if you face disappointments already in victory, the things I can control is I can control my run.
Mm-hmm.
I can control how my house looks, how my world is. I can control that. So I've won. Open my door of life. Life starts to beat me down, but I'm facing it with the body armor that I created.
Yes.
And now I'm facing life with the proper tools. Unlike I hit the snooze button, I'm running late, my house is a mess, my mind's a mess. Now life's already beat you. So you open the door and now life hits you and you're already frustrated. You're already in that anxiety mode. You're stressed already. And then life starts to pile more on top of you. You get home, you're exhausted. And that's how life happens to everyone. You have to live and win what you can and build the body armor. Start callousing the mind so you're ready for combat outside of your house. Because it's going to come. And that's what I realized at a young age. I had no body armor. I had no callus. So when life came at me, I ran, I tucked. I lived in the fetal position trying to get away from life. I wasn't protected. I didn't protect myself. I had nothing. So I started realizing I got to form an armor. So I won't have to lie to you to make you like me. So I'm not approaching people feeling insecure, saying I have all these material things that I don't have. When you have that body armor, you tell people, hey man, I'm not real smart, but I try real hard. I'm not the fat. I won't win this race, man, but I've been running for the last 4 years every day.
That's pretty good, yeah.
That's the mentality that you need to have.
Yeah.
Look at people knowing I know you and everybody else has issues. So why am I worried about how anybody thinks of me? We're all in the same boat here. Some boats may be bigger than others, but we all have problems. So be it. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Some of us are willing to not lie about it.
Yeah.
I'm at that point now where I no longer care. Because why? Why can I go on here and tell people how fucked up I am? Because I faced them. They no longer define who I am.
Yeah.
It's not me. It was me.
They don't control you anymore.
It's not,
yeah.
What would you say is your biggest insecurity? Do you have any insecurities?
My biggest insecurity?
Because from the outside looking in, you feel like it seems like you have no fear. You're extremely successful in business. Everything you put out is really successful. You've been through 20 years of training and combat. You've seen the worst in the world. You've seen the best. And it doesn't seem like you have many insecurities. So I'm curious if you face any today after all the lessons you've gone through.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like anybody else, I don't want to fail at things.
Yeah.
And for me, like I said, if there's people out there that could use the lessons that I've learned and I haven't gotten it to them, to me, that's a failure.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that keeps me awake at night. The other thing from that perspective is, you know, you look at, you say, you know, you've seen a lot, you've been through a lot, and I've been through a decent amount. There's many people that have been through infinitely worse than me, but you know, for what I'm insecure about, for what I worry about, is I worry about missing out on opportunities that I have because I got friends that will never get the chance to execute on opportunities because they didn't come home. And so for me to squander any moment, any second of my life, my life is a gift, your life is a gift. I know that for a fact. And for me to squander that is something that definitely haunts me. It haunts me every day, and I won't let it happen.
Yeah, because I'm assuming you got a lot of friends that didn't make it back, or people you were with or trained, or... Yeah.
All of the above.
So do you feel like you have this responsibility to make sure you take on every opportunity, or the opportunities that come to you, you've got to at least give them your best shot, even if you kind of quote unquote fail at it?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a what you just said. I mean, even you know, as you said it, it's an unrealistic statement. Hey, every opportunity that comes your way, I'm going to take on. No, that's not true. Every opportunity that I have, prioritize and execute, you know, which is one of the laws of combat.
Right.
It's like, hey, you're going to get opportunities, but I'm going to look at them, assess them, and move forward. But really, I'm talking about the real things that I'm trying to do, that I have the opportunity to do. I'm going to do them to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Is there anything you regret in your 20 years of being a SEAL?
I mean, you're always going to have regret.
Is there anything that you still hold on to, that you haven't like processed and let go of, or been okay with, I guess, like the regrets that you dealt with?
You know, I don't spend a lot of time with regret.
That's good.
You know, because there's not much that you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's happened.
It's nothing, yeah.
So what the way I look at regret is, what did I learn from it? What did I learn from whatever thing I'm looking at that I know I could have done a better job, could have done different? Sure, there's a million things like that, but I don't sit there and think about them all day long. What I think is like, hey, here's the lessons that I learned from them. I won't make those mistakes again, and move forward.
Yeah. Was it challenging, because you have 4 kids, did you say?
4 kids.
4 kids. Was it challenging at times being a father and going off to war and thinking about kids and missing out on kids? Was that challenging for you, or did you know this is what I signed up for and it's all going to be okay, I'm going to come home eventually and spend more quality time with them? Or did you struggle with being a father and being away a lot at the same time?
Yeah, when you have kids and you go away to war and you don't know if you're going to come back, that's horrible.
How do you handle that emotionally or mentally?
I think I did a lot of compartmentalization.
Really?
And so, like, here's a for instance. I was in Ramadi, my last deployment to Iraq, and my wife asked me to send a picture of where I slept at night. Because my kids, she said, oh, the kids want to see where you're sleeping. We were in an old regime kind of palace on the wall. Not quite a palace, but a mansion. And of course, it's all now boarded up, and there's sandbags in the windows, and there are machine gun nests on it, and the whole 9 yards. But that's where we were living, you know? And I had a little bedroom in there with a plywood bed that, you know, we'd built, and there was some kind of a crappy mattress on it.
A little cushion, yeah.
Yeah, but that's where I slept. And so I was going to take a picture of it so I could send it to my wife on an email. And when I took the picture, I looked at it and I realized that there was something wrong with the picture. So I opened up a drawer, pulled out a little file, a little folder, took some pictures of my wife and kids and put them up around the bed.
Wow.
And then I took a picture of it. And then I took all those things back down, I put them back in the folder, I put them back in the drawer. Because the last thing I needed to be thinking about while I was away on deployment was thinking about my wife and kids.
Wow.
What I needed to be thinking about was the guys that were with me, that were counting on me to make the right decisions. And so I didn't want to be thinking about my wife and kids. So I compartmentalized them. I would talk to my wife maybe once a week, call her, check in. I would tell her everything's great, everything's fine. And she would tell me the same thing, you know, doesn't matter what was going on at home as far as she was
you can't be
tell me.
worrying about her.
She didn't want me worrying about her or the kids. So as far as I knew, everything was good, and as far as she knew, everything was good, and that was what seemed to work well.
Wow. Did they teach you that, or is that what a lot of SEALs did, or is that just kind of you had to? You just
I think some and not just SEALs, but I think most human beings
Yeah.
will figure that that's probably the best thing to do, is focus on your job at hand and put those thoughts and feelings aside. But I'll tell you what, you talked about being scared, and I said, for me being scared of one of my guys getting hurt, the last thing in the world I wanted to be thinking about while I was on deployment was my wife and kids at home, and would I ever see them again, and any of that. I'm not thinking about that. That's not happening.
Because then you're making the wrong moves.
Yeah, because then what you're doing is you're hesitating, and if you're hesitating,
That's when you get hurt.
you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get killed. So
Man, that's crazy. That's a story right there. So when she saw the photo, was she happy to see the family photos around?
oh yeah. Oh, that's nice.
But in your,
Yeah.
that's crazy. But you couldn't sleep at night looking at those
I
photos.
didn't want to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did other guys do the same thing, or did some of them have?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And some guys it fueled them. That's fine. Not everyone's the same.
Right.
Some guys I'm sure would look at the picture of their wife or their kids and
Give them
feel
energy.
feel motivated by it and give them something to look forward to. For me, I did not want to think about that.
Oh man, that's crazy. Was once a week enough for you to keep that connection going and to keep the?
Yeah, I've been married for a long time. I've been married
Wow.
for a long time, for 20 something years.
And do you believe in God too?
I think when you're overseas in a combat situation, whether depending on what your version of God is going to be, but what I will say is this: you will see absolute pure evil overseas. You'll see it. What we saw in the Battle of Ramadi was abhorrent behavior by forces of evil that seem to be non-human in many ways. And then the other side of the spectrum, when you're in combat, you're going to see some level of good and pure goodness that when one person will sacrifice their life to save other people, that's not normal, right? That's not a human instinct. It's an instinct beyond being human. And so whatever that word means, good, evil, God, Satan,
Yeah.
I've seen it.
What were your beliefs as a SEAL, and have they changed since you've been home? Did you believe in a higher power or God or spiritual belief during that time, and has it shifted or changed?
I say the feelings that I had going in, I would say, what I just explained about seeing good and evil. Like when you see good and evil like that extreme, it just reinforced the fact that there's, like I said, wherever you put these ideas, wherever you think those ideas are rooted, I've seen them spring up into the world with my own eyes.
Yeah. So what's your belief then? Do you believe in a higher power guiding you, or do you believe there is a God, there isn't a God?
Yeah, well, there has to be
in your mind?
There's something inside. There's something in the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's inside people's heads, whether it's external, I don't know. And I'm a person that looks at the world and thinks, when I hear people saying God doesn't exist, or God 100% exists, guess what? I don't know. Yeah. When I say I don't know, I don't claim to understand the mysteries of the universe at all. But I will say this: when you look and you see the actions of human beings, whether that force is external or internal, they are there. And so,
right,
I've seen them.
What's your biggest insecurity today?
I'm not to be arrogant, I don't have one.
What was the last one you had, and when was that?
The last one I had was probably still me, still living, because I always talk about I pay rent. So we used to live in a $7 a month place when I was growing up.
Is this in Buffalo, or is this?
This is in Indiana.
Yeah.
So like we had a lot of money in Buffalo. And when my mom left my dad, we went to nothing. for a period of time before she got on her feet.
Right.
And that $7 a month place used to be, it was who I was. I was no one. I was in the sewer. My mom went there. I had nothing. And you always feel like you have nothing. I'd achieved so much. I was a Navy SEAL. I'd gone through Ranger School. I've gone through Delta Force selection training. I've done so much. I run 200 miles, pull-up records, everything. Learned to read and write, became pretty intelligent. And I still was like, man, what is wrong with me? It wasn't until I got real sick, and I talk about in the last chapter of that book, I got real sick, and I was about 38 years old. I'm 43 now, and my life got real quiet. I went from running 205 miles in 39 hours to I couldn't get out of bed. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, but once again, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Why is that?
In that moment when my whole life changed, I went from a guy who worked out every day, trained every day, to a guy who couldn't get out of bed. My life was taken from me. The one thing that kept me going was my training.
Now you didn't have that.
I didn't have anything.
Now you just had to sit alone.
Alone.
And not train.
And that's what changed me. And that's when I
Wow.
realized I hadn't taken time to think about what I'd done in my life.
You hadn't reflected yet.
I hadn't reflected. I'd done all these things, but there was no finish line. I still believe that, but you must have time to reflect.
Yeah.
I was just going. I finished a race of life, and I wouldn't even receive my medal. I'd go on.
You're like, on to the next.
I get in the car and I go.
You wouldn't even take the medal.
Gone. Don't care about
Like,
it.
I'm not going to waste an hour
No.
sitting around for this ceremony.
Most people
It's
sit
soft.
around, and that's what they like. They need the ceremony if I accomplished something.
Validation.
I haven't done anything. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
I'm just getting started.
I'm just getting started. That's right. When I started figuring out life, that I was leaving so much in the tank. I call it my 40% rule.
Yeah.
I was leaving so much in the tank. Once I realized, my God, man, I was this dumb, fat kid being bullied, and now I'm a 180-pound person, lost 106 pounds in less than 3 months. Learn to read, learn to do this, learn to do that. I was like, I need more. I was fueling my mind with everything. And I never took time to say, my God, you came from this hell, and you're here. So those insecurities, and this is how I explain it the best way. SEAL training became pretty hard, and a lot of guys weren't getting through it. So they designed a SEAL prep program.
Like a boot camp for the boot camp.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was 2 months. In my last 2 years before I retired from the military, they sent me there to train these kids.
Wow.
To get ready for
18,
buds.
19, 20-year-olds, yeah.
Young kids. So when they get to Navy SEAL training, man, they were physical studs. They were running, swimming. I mean, they were hybrids.
Wow.
But they get to buds, and the same amount of people would quit.
Why is that?
This is why. We were training bigger, stronger, faster quitters. It's not about.
Not the mind.
That's right. We weren't diving into the sewer. Everybody's got a story. We don't share it on social media. We share our nice life on social media. We all have a dungeon. I'm just willing to talk about mine.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't willing to talk about it. I'm willing to talk about my dungeon. I wasn't getting into the dungeon of these guys' minds. I wasn't building that so-called mental toughness. Mental toughness isn't something that you sample. It's something that you live in every day. So when something hard would happen to these kids, like in Hell Week, it would draw on something that made them very insecure. And they look for comfort. Whenever hardness comes, and you don't know what it is, it may be different for you than it is for me, but you go back to your insecurities. And then when you go back to your insecurities, you then look for comfort within those insecurities. And we all look for that cookie that your mom used to give you when you were sad, when you were sick. We look for our wife or our husband. We look for comfort. It's in those moments you must retrain your mind to think differently in hell. I wasn't training them to do that.
Why weren't you training them?
I wasn't training myself to do that because at that time, I was doing what I was told. These guys need to meet a standard.
Physical standard.
A physical standard. The physical standard is not what they need to meet. It's a mental standard you must meet in life. So going back to when I was sick, I was hitting the physical standards. I wasn't meeting the mental standard. The mental standard is you must know how far you've come.
Wow.
I had come 8,000 miles from where I started. But if you never know that, you're still in the $7 a month place. When I was sick, I was able to slow it down and reflect back on my entire life. And in that bed, when I thought I was dying, because that story is long, that sick portion of my life is long, I didn't care if I died or lived.
Wow.
Because I was, for the first time in my life, happy.
Wow.
And at peace. Because I reflected back on where it started.
You said, wow, I have come a long way.
That's right. And no one saved me. It wasn't like someone came down here and guided me through life. When you figure this out on your own, the amount of pride and dignity and self-respect you have. That's why I walk around the streets with a backpack and just like, I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
You figure it out by going inside yourself, by callousing over the victim's mentality. You're always a victim, even if you have everything in life, until you realize what you've achieved. You have to first realize what you've achieved. And my mom has accomplished so much in her life since my father, but she hasn't done that one step.
Really? She doesn't acknowledge it and reflect
She
back?
continues to go back to the dungeon of her past life.
And live in that space.
And live in that space versus living the space that she's in now and reflecting back on, my God, this is what I've done with my life. So.
Have you talked to her about this?
We talk about it all the time, and you have to be willing to go there. You have to be willing to really go there. Not surface. I don't live on the surface of anything.
Yeah.
Surface is what got me where I was at. It got me from 175 pounds to 300 pounds. Telling everybody I'm good. I don't give a damn. I'm good. No, they're hollow words. A lot of us speak in hollow words. I used to speak in hollow words. I don't do it anymore. Everything that comes out of my mouth has substance. It's real. And we all have these feelings in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls. I act on mine. A lot of us who are afraid of something, we allow our minds to choose the path of least resistance, so we go a different route. When I'm afraid of something, it's telling me you must conquer
this
that.
thing.
You must do that.
Yeah.
You have to go that way. And most of us don't understand that mentality. We go left and we wonder why we haven't fulfilled something in our lives. It's because we continue to take the journey that is mapped out. And how I look at it is I talk in life like a lot of us in life want to take the 4-lane highway that has road maps and all this other stuff on it, man. It tells you where to go, gas stations. The next 10 miles up, you're going to see a McDonald's or Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
It's the easy route. Very few of us want to go to the right side.
That Cracker Barrel's that Midwest life.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
From Ohio.
It's all about it, man.
It's
Indiana, Cracker Barrel everywhere.
Dude, that's amazing. Bringing back memories. This is powerful because I've been telling people this. I've been living that way unknowingly my whole life of like whatever the thing is I'm afraid of. When I was in high school, I started doing those things.
Right.
And it was just like, I'm sick and tired of feeling afraid.
Right.
So I need to do the things that scare me the most.
That's right.
You know, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. Tiffany's heard me share these stories, but I was afraid to talk to girls when I was a teenager. I was afraid of dancing. I was afraid of like singing and playing music in front of people. I was afraid of all these different things. And so I said, I want to do this. I'm going to give myself a challenge every single day until the fear goes away.
That's right.
And I feel like that's what more of us should be doing. I'm hearing that that's what how you live your life.
That's all it is, man.
And it helps me feel so much more confident. When you overcome that fear of saying this doesn't have control over me anymore,
That's right.
it's like you can be at such more peace
It's 100%.
in your life.
Most of like for instance, I never thought in my wildest dreams I could be a Navy SEAL. It's until you open your mind, open-mindedness creates that. We all shut down our mind. Like for instance, when I broke the pull-up record, everybody around me who heard the pull-up record was 4,020 pull-ups. That's the first thing they did. Oh my God.
4,000 in 24 hours, or was
Yeah,
this?
it's 4,020 pull-ups in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
The first thing I did versus closing my mind to like, oh my God, that's crazy. I went and got a pen.
And say, how many is that every minute?
Exactly.
Every hour, every second. Yeah.
Instead of taking life and making it out to be this grandiose thing, start breaking it down. Start breaking it down. And most of us, we live in a box, and we don't want to go outside that box at all, ever. Outside that box is all these possibilities of life. But what we do is we shackle our mind. We are a prisoner in our own mind that this is all I can do. This is all I'm good at. And we take away the possibilities of you could be this, you could be that, you could be all these things. And I never thought at 300 pounds I could be a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
So if my mind was shackled, me and you would never meet. There'd be no book.
Right.
There'd be no book.
Right.
There'd be nothing. So what people understand is that they live for themselves, not knowing that you have the power within yourself to change millions of lives by facing life, by facing yourself. And through that, I would die never knowing that I had the power to change millions of lives. And what haunts me the most, people ask me, what haunts you the most? What haunts me the most is that if I would have died at 300 pounds, let's say I was 75 years old, I got to heaven, and God has a chart like that on everybody's life. God knows all. Let's say that. I don't care what you believe in. Doesn't matter. I'm not judging anybody. But let's say my thing is God. You get to heaven, I'm 300 pounds, I sit down, I was a cockroach Terminator my whole life, and we're sitting down just like this. You're God and I'm David. And he gives me that chart, and he says, look at this. And I'm looking at this chart, and on the chart it has all these different things, but my name's on it. But these things aren't me. I was going to change the world. I was going to set records. I was going to be a Navy SEAL. I was going to be all these things in the military that I accomplished. You're going to get the VFW award. You're going to be honored here, honored there. And I'm like, God, this isn't me. Like it says David Goggins, I was an Ecolab guy. I sprayed for cockroaches, and I'm 300 pounds. It said here I'm 185. It says here I got a bachelor's and a master's. It says all these things. And God goes, no, that's who you were supposed to be.
Wow.
My biggest fear in life is if there is a final resting place in this world, and there's a final judgment, and you talk to something much bigger than you. I don't want to sit down and have a conversation with someone, with something that says, you're in heaven, this is what you should have been on earth. And are you really in heaven now, or are you in hell? Thinking about how much I left on the table for not willing to go over the wall and over the next wall and over the next wall. So in my mind, I believe that. And God knows all. At least I believe that. I want God to be up there right now as we're speaking, writing stuff down, saying, my God, he exceeded even my expectations. That's how I live my life. I now know that there is no cap on the human mind. There's no cap. We cap it ourselves.
Wow. Is there a cap on the human body?
That's right.
Is there one?
I don't believe so. Because one thing I found out was for several years I gave myself a way out.
When you were 300
pounds? When I was 300 pounds, when I was all the way up until I was 24 years old. I would climb a mountain, I'd fall back down. I start climbing, I fall back down for the first 24 years of my life. I went to my first Hell Week, my second Hell Week, and then my third Hell Week came in SEAL training, and the CEO, Captain Bowen, looked at me. I'm on crutches, I'm all jacked up. He says, hey, this is your last time you're gonna go through buds. This is it. I had several stress fractures. I had double pneumonia, I was jacked up, and he gave me a few months to heal. And he said, this is your last time going through. I shouldn't even let you go back through.
Wow.
I started Navy SEAL training with stress fractures. Stress fractures,
That's
not shin splints.
That's hard to finish.
Stress fractures. Starting the hardest training, arguably the hardest training in the world with stress fractures. And this is when I started to not put a cap on the body if the mind is there. Every morning I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, go to my dive cage, go in there before anybody saw me. I'd get duct tape, and I would tape from my forefoot all the way up to the mid of my calf, and I would put 2 black socks on. And so I ran not using the pivot.
Oh my gosh.
And I ran my hip flexors. So for the first 45 minutes to an hour, I was in absolute excruciating pain. But what motivated me through that whole process was the fact that this kid came from that. I'm in the hardest training in the world, in the worst shape of my entire life. What if I can graduate amongst these studs?
Wow.
All these guys around me are studs. They're stallions. They're gladiators in my class. They're all healthy. Most of them. They're not broken like this. They may have some, everybody's sick going through that training.
Yeah.
But if I can graduate, it would change everything for me. If I can start the hardest training in the world, broken, and graduate. So my mind fed off of that. You are now, from the weakest man, you are now the hardest man to ever live. If you can do this. If you can do this. Life is one big mind game.
Yeah.
And you're playing it with yourself. Is it true? I don't care. It got me through the hardest training, starting out broken. Where most people quit, I had just started.
Wow.
And when you take that mindset and you learn to flip that around, that's what made me powerful. And my body followed. And 3 months later, my stress fractures were healed by running on them.
Calcifying it, just like.
I never had them since. I'm 43 years old.
Wow.
I ran 7,000 miles in 2007. Haven't had a stress fracture since. And I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying that when the mind and the body connect, and you don't give yourself a way out. The only way out for me at that time was death.
Wow.
I'm going to be a Navy SEAL.
Or I'm going to die.
Or I'm going to die trying.
Yeah.
Period. And my body said, Roger that. We're going to get you through this.
So when the mind gives it no way out,
No way out.
Your body says, okay, I believe you now.
I have to heal.
I'm going to figure this out with you. We're
Yes.
going to do this. It's going to be the worst part of your life, but you're going to survive.
We're going to survive.
Wow.
And as you hear in that 100-mile race I did, I started figuring out more and more and more and more about at the other end of suffering is a life that no one, and I'm not talking about go out there and kill yourself. Don't take these words and flip them and say, oh my God. No. It just be uncomfortable. I call it suffering.
Don't physically injure yourself.
Yes. Not saying that.
And then be out for 6 months.
That's right.
That's no good.
That's no good. I'm not saying do what I did.
Yeah.
I was in a spot that life forced me. I had a choice. I had a choice to be this guy or the guy that's in front of you. I had choices. I chose this path.
And you're still choosing it.
And I'm still choosing
You can
it.
go back to that guy at any moment.
Because I found out something with those stress fractures. I found out something through facing all these things. I found out a whole nother world, which is why I walk around with all my stuff in a black backpack.
Wow.
I found out a whole nother way. A whole nother way of no matter how far you get in life, you have to be able to go back to scratch in your mind at a moment's notice. You can never get so far beyond scratch. What that means is when you accomplish something in life, if you're willing to go back to scratch and go back to that $7 a month place where I once lived and visit that place for a long period of time. If you were here when you went back to scratch, you would now be here. Scratch is what makes you better. Scratch, friction, obstacles create growth. There's no friction when you're this far up in the game anymore. You think there is.
When you've achieved,
that's right. When you achieve so much, the friction is minor. Because why? I'm sore. I'm going to get a massage today. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat today. The refrigerator is always full. So your comforts are now, so your discomfort is now very minuscule to your discomfort back here in the $7 a month place. So you have to go back to the total discomfort to then raise your level of where you're at now. I'm not saying stay there and stay there. Visit.
Visit it.
And then you raise your level.
Take a day trip.
That's right.
Yeah.
Always take day trips.
Yeah. Don't stay there.
That's right.
But take a day trip.
Take a day trip.
You were a Navy SEAL for how many years? Was it
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
And the story of how you became a Navy SEAL is pretty crazy. Can you share how you didn't get accepted and then the process you had to go through in order to become the chance of going to be a Navy SEAL? Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, brother. Yeah. So, yeah, my story's a little bit different. It took me a while to just get on the start line of SEAL training. Background on me, I was born and raised in North Georgia, never played sports, never ran, never swam in a swimming pool.
Never ran?
No, never ran. I mean, other than, just running through the woods for fun, nothing for fitness.
No swimming?
Never swam in a swimming pool till I went and took the physical standards test to get a SEAL contract.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I was coming from, but I had this goal all of a sudden that I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and that was kind of born through when I graduated high school. I was working in the construction industry, and I just kind of had this revelation one day, man, that if I didn't go step outside of that and do something that I considered special or different, that was going to be my lot in life. I was never going to have any more than what that little construction job in my hometown could offer. And that's fine for a lot of people. I know a bunch of dudes that are still working at that exact same place to this day, and they're totally happy with their lives. Mm-hmm. But for me, I just wasn't happy with the place that I was in. So I was browsing the internet, saw this flyer of hardest military training in the free world, Navy SEALs, and for some reason it clicked, and that's what I decided I wanted to go do.
So you were researching, you saw this as the hardest thing to do, the elite of the elite, mm-hmm. and it hits you in your core. You're 18 years old, 18, 19 at the time. It hits you in your heart. You're like, okay, this is my mission, this is my dream, my goal.
That's it, man. Yeah, so that became kind of my
you obsessed over it.
Overall thing, dude. So, I went and took the PST to get a SEAL contract. I failed that multiple times.
What's PST stand for?
It's a physical standards testing.
Right.
It's a run, swim, push up, pull up kind of test. So I failed it multiple times. Finally got to where I learned how to swim, learned how to run 1.5 miles, all that good stuff. And
how many times can you take it before?
You can take it as many times as you want. Yeah, so I took it once a week, and it probably took me, I'd go and take it once a week. It probably took me 4 months to finally pass it.
So
I'm coming from nothing, dude.
Is this like a standard test with the government or the Navy, in your local town, or is this just you want to stopwatch testing yourself?
No, the Navy has contracted mentors, SEAL mentors that administer the test, and
Gotcha.
they have one in every, they have multiple in each state.
And you were in Georgia, so you were driving to the nearest town and you'd do it there or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So finally passed that, get a
4
SEAL
months.
contract. Yeah.
Every week, but you saw growth. You saw that you were getting better.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, and it was really the skills. I didn't have the skills that I needed to pass. I mean, I didn't know how to do a combat swimmer side stroke. I could dog paddle when I first started.
So were you teaching yourself in between the testing every week? You were swimming every day, you're running, you're teaching yourself.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, that progressed slowly, but over time I finally got it down pat. And so I went into the Navy, and with my SEAL contract finally. So the SEAL contract basically means you get a shot at SEAL training.
You can go to training camp.
Yep.
Got it.
That means they guarantee you a spot on the start line at BUDS. It's called Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. But you have to go to Navy boot camp first. So I went to Navy boot camp. I made it all the way through boot camp, and it was our last day of boot camp. And we had this big final training exercise, and we got that done, and all my other classmates were going off to graduation, the ceremony, and they were going to move on with their dreams and aspirations to go to SEAL training. And my drill instructor pulls me aside after this final training exercise, and he says, "Hey Chad, you got to go to medical, man. They found something on your physical that they need to talk to you about." So while everybody else is going off to graduation, I'm walking over to medical, And I walk into the, the medical officer, and he says, Chad, you have a pericardial cyst on your heart. And it's asymptomatic, but we're afraid that when you go down to depth, diving, that it will burst the cyst on your heart. So he said, we can't let you be a SEAL, man.
Oh, wow.
So in that last moment, as I was about to move forward with everything that I had invested myself into, it was all taken from me. And
Did you try to say, it's okay, I'll sign a waiver, like, I'll do whatever it takes? Or were you accepting of it right away, like, oh?
he didn't give me a choice.
So
there was no choice in the matter. There's nothing you can do.
Black and white, this is a no, you're
That's
out.
it. That's it. Now, I did try to say, okay, well, I'm in the Navy now, like, can't you guys perform a surgery to take this thing off my heart?
Right.
And of course, he said, no, this is asymptomatic. It's a very rare condition. We're not willing to risk the surgery just so you can go to SEAL training. And if they performed the surgery, there was no guarantee that it would be successful and I would be able to move forward anyways.
So you could still be in the Navy.
Exactly.
And work on some other job, just not going underwater.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. So that's what they basically did. They tried to send me out to the fleet, and but that wasn't where I had set my goal, man. So I was able to pull some strings and get out of the Navy on an administrative discharge. And
You said, well, I don't want to go work anymore for you then if I can't do what I want to do.
yeah, I mean, but the thing is, Lewis, it's weird, dude, because when he told me, like, I can remember when that dive medical officer told me, basically, no, you cannot be a SEAL. You will never be able to be a SEAL. Like, for some reason, I don't know if it was because I was young and naive, but I never let go of that goal. Like, even after he gave me a definitive answer, I still had in my mind, I'm going to find a way over, under, around. I'm going to do something to fix this so I can move forward with my dreams. So maybe that's, why I had so much confidence to get out of the Navy, sure. Completely out. I cut all ties with the Navy. Show back up to my hometown. And of course, everybody looks at me, and it's a small town, so everybody knew where I was going and what my aspirations were. And they look at me, and of course, they all say, well, what are you doing back here, bro? You obviously quit, right? Because that's what everybody does, is quit. Yeah. Very few people make it through. So yeah, that was something I had to deal with when I got home. That was pretty tough.
How long was that time for?
So when I got home, I started immediately trying to find a surgeon that would take this thing off my heart.
Right away, you were like, okay,
right away.
Who can help me?
Totally, man. Yep, right off the bat. And I went to like 3 or 4 different heart surgeons there in Atlanta, and nobody would touch it. They said the same thing that the dive medical officer in the Navy told me. Finally, I found a surgeon that would take this thing off my heart. His name was Dr. Cooper, and he was a Army surgeon. He had served time on the battlefield, active duty. So he understood what I wanted to go do, and that I wanted to serve my country. He understood my dream, more so than somebody that hadn't served their country could.
Sure.
So Dr. Cooper was willing to accept the risk of performing this surgery on my behalf.
Did you do it pro bono? Did you have to pay him a premium? What was it? Did insurance cover this?
That's an interesting thing. We were not sure. So I didn't have health insurance at the time. We were not sure how we were going to pay for it. Obviously I had, my family was supportive of me, and we were just, as a group, we decided we're just going to go have this surgery done, and then we'll get the bill and we'll pay payments on it for the rest of our lives if we need to, So went in, Dr. Cooper performed the surgery. I only remember one moment of doubt. It was the morning of the surgery. We were driving to the hospital, and I was about to lay there and let him cut my chest open.
Because you have to do open.
Well, they actually detached my pectoral muscle, peeled it up, and then broke my ribs and went in through my rib cage.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
man.
so
they didn't open the middle of your chest.
no, they didn't split my sternum.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he cuts you here,
Detached
opens
my
the
pec.
muscle.
Yeah.
pulls the muscle up, and then breaks the rib, or just like bends it? Or?
They actually had to break the ribs to get in, I guess to create a cavity big enough to. The cyst was 7 centimeters, so it was a pretty large. I mean, compared to your heart, that's a fairly large cyst, you know.
Yeah. How does the bones heal back?
Dude, I have no clue, dude. And I was so young back then, dude. I didn't ask questions about like, how are you going to do this surgery? How long is it going to take me to recover?
Heal. Yeah.
Yeah, like it didn't matter. I was so thankful I had someone that was willing to perform the surgery. I didn't ask those questions, you know.
Wow. Okay, so you had a moment of doubt going to the hospital.
Yeah.
What was that fear?
Yeah. So the fear was, I think it was just the reality set in. The reality of the risk I was about to take to gamble upon my dreams, basically.
And the risk being, I might die.
I might die, that's right. So I look over at my dad, it's like 5 a.m, we're riding to the hospital, and I say, Dad, do you really think I should do this, man? And he just looked back at me stone cold, and he said, Chad, if you want to be a SEAL, you don't have any choice. And I was like, Roger that, man. And we rolled, laid out on the operating table.
10-4, Roger that.
That's it, man. Surgery was successful.
Wow.
Woke up. First thing I remember coming out of anesthesia, my grandmother was standing beside my hospital bed, and I grabbed her hand and I said, I got my dreams back.
Wow.
And so, like, from that point forward, bro, nothing was going to stop me.
Nothing.
Because I took that adversity and I used it as a tool from that point forward. I was so invested at that point. That furnace of adversity had stripped me down and purified me down to the core, dude, of why did I want to do this? You know, it was just 100% from that point forward.
Why did you want to do it? Did you ask yourself and recheck in? Like, is this really worth opening my chest and doing this and potentially dying?
The best way I can answer that, Lewis, and that's a good question, man, because I guess a lot of people would expect me to say, because I wanted to serve my country or I wanted to go to war or this, but at that time in my life, it wasn't that. The only way I can answer that question about why did I want to do it is because that is what my goal was. That was what my goal was, and I was told, when I was told no, it made me want it 100-fold.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Do you think if you wouldn't have had that surgery, you would have completed being a Navy SEAL? You would have went through the testing and made it through, and you think you would have made it still?
So there's no way I can answer that 100% with 100% certainty. My honest opinion is no, I wouldn't have made it through training. Honestly.
Why do you think you wouldn't have if you didn't have that adversity?
Because for one, I don't think that I was prepared mentally or physically prior to that adversity. So like I said, that moment of adversity with the heart condition and all that, not only did it purify my intentions and my will and all that, but also I had to recover after that surgery. So
how long was that?
I was back in the Navy standing in front of the same dive medical officer that had disqualified me less than a year after the surgery.
Wow.
So I had that block after the surgery to really hunker down and train with the right mindset. So I had the right mindset then for that training block. So that training block was so much more effective than any of the training that I had done prior to that adversity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because it took you probably 3 to 6 months to heal to a point where you could start running and start moving effectively, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then you have maybe a 4 to 6 month runway to train hard.
That's it.
Yeah, and train your mind the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
So you stand in front of the guy who said, no, it's not possible. What was that like?
It was pretty wild, man. I remember walking in his office and
He remember you?
yeah, oh yeah, he totally did. I mean, this is such a rare condition, and all this is written in medical journals. This is public information that you can, if you research Navy SEAL pericardial cyst, you can read the medical journals on this. So it was so rare, they had never seen it in a SEAL candidate before, so he remembered me, definitely, you know. But yeah, I remember walking in his office, and of course, he still had to give me the go-ahead, you know. I didn't walk in there all cocky like, screw you, dude, you know,
Right.
but I went in there and I remember he looked at me, dude, and he said, what are you doing back here? And I had the paperwork from my civilian surgeon that performed the surgery. And I just said, hey man, will you take a look at this? Set it down in front of him, and he went over the documents right there and pretty much gave me the go-ahead. Said, hey,
You said, I did the surgery, here's all the documents.
that's it.
Here's the medical release, here's the whatever, right?
That's it, brother. Yeah, and then
He said, all right, good to go.
yeah, and yeah, he said, you got it, you know, you got it now. And I think he understood better than anyone else what I had done.
The amount of commitment that you had to,
Exactly.
that you were all in. This isn't, he was like, okay, that's not a, you know, I don't know, stitch up some wound you have, surgery. This is life-threatening surgery
That's
that
it.
you did just for this one thing.
That's it, brother. And I think he understood that better than anybody else could have. You know what I mean?
And how old are you at this time? 19, 20?
I would have been 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that he gives you the clear, what did that feel like when he just said, you know, signed off or whatever he said that you can go into now BUDS training, which you were not even a SEAL. It didn't even say you're a SEAL yet.
No.
You now have to still pass the 6-month test.
That's it. Yeah.
So how was that feeling when he said you're good to go?
That's crazy, Lewis. Nobody's ever asked me that question. But I can remember it, you know, bringing it up in my mind now that you asked me
Were
that.
you like screaming inside? Did you hug him? Were you like crying? Were you calling someone?
Well, it was definitely no hugging or nothing. I mean, it was a professional relationship.
Sure,
I was a seaman and he was an
Right,
officer. But yeah, it was just that. I mean, like I've never experienced before, either before that or even now after that in my life. Just this welling up of like passion and drive within me when he signed the dotted line, and I knew, I was like, I got this.
And you're
you know?
watching him sign it.
That's
You're
it.
thinking to yourself, like, it'd just be so emotionally overwhelming probably.
It is, dude.
For a year, everything you sacrificed.
Yep.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was an amazing moment. And I thank you for asking that question, because I never reflect on that moment. Never reflected on that moment in the last 13 years of my life.
Wow, that's cool.
Cool to go back and think about it.
Yeah, man. But I'm sure you've had many experiences with your wife, right? Over the, how many years you've been married, or?
22.
So I'm sure there's many times where you've expressed your dislike about something with her, and she's expressed dislike of something about you. Is that fair to say?
Not really.
No?
No. What am I gaining from telling my wife something I dislike about her?
Or about a situation or something she's unhappy with that you forgot to do, or are you guys not like that?
I don't really play into that whole bickering
That's
thing.
great.
Right?
That's amazing.
Because I'm immediately just de-escalating. Right?
You de-escalate all the time.
Just de-escalate. Like what am I going to gain? Am I going to win an argument? Here's the question. Am I going to win an argument with my wife?
No.
No. I might win a short-term battle with my wife.
Right.
What's that going to do for me for the next week? It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to suffer more. So I'm not looking to win an argument. I'm looking to resolve a problem.
Wow.
And that's what allows, I mean, the SEAL teams has like a 90% divorce rate.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Why is that?
Because you're gone all the time. You're under a lot of stress. You detach emotionally. You come home. You just, that's what happens. It's a hard environment to, I mean, let's face it, normal people have like a 50% divorce rate.
Right.
So
You're not normal yet.
you put normal
With
people, you
more
put them in
stress,
massive
yeah.
stress, and you go on 6-month deployments, 8-month deployments,
hard to
back
stick-
to back
yeah,
to back
yeah.
to back, yeah.
So how do you detach your ego? I guess your wife doesn't come at you in a negative.
No, my wife will do that all day long.
Really? So if she's coming at you or attacking little things here and there, how do you not let it affect you emotionally? Or where you're like,
Don't you see how hard I'm working? Or don't you see what I'm providing? Or don't you see that I'm showing up every day consistently?
Don't you see that my ego is out of control and I'm looking to fight you right now?
Wow.
No, I'm not going to play that game.
So you just detach it instantly.
Yes.
If someone's coming
And
at you
again,
with a
you got to be
whiteboard.
careful, because if you're unemotional, that's not good either, right? There's a balance.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you just sit back and you show no emotions, well, try that sometime with your girlfriend, right?
Sure.
When they get mad at you, just go, what's for dinner? Like, see how that works. No, you can't do that.
You've got to
You have to be
reflect.
balanced.
Yeah.
You have to be balanced. But yes, your ego is what plays into, your ego drives all kinds of stupid things that you do.
Yeah.
And here's what's interesting. When you're truly confident, when you truly are confident, it allows you to be able to say, you know what, like if you and I are working together and I've been doing this for 20 years and you've been doing it for 4 or 3 or 2, and you come to me and say, hey, I want to try this a different way. If I'm really confident, I'll be able to say, you know what, that plan sounds better than mine, actually. Why don't you go and execute that?
Wow.
Now, what do you think of me when I say that?
Awesome.
Yeah, you think, oh, that's
You're the
cool.
man. He's a cool leader.
He's a cool leader.
He gets me.
He
Trusts me.
He trusts me. He
Respects me.
He respects me, and he's got confidence. Now, if you come to me with a plan, which, by the way, you can tell that your plan's better than mine. I mean, it's evident for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You come to me with that plan, and I go, no, we're not doing it that way. Do it my way.
I'd be like, this guy sucks.
This guy sucks. Not only that, but you realize that I don't even have the confidence to trust you and let you move forward.
Yeah, he's an egomaniac.
He's
It's got to be his way.
Got to be his way. There you go. All those things.
Yeah.
So I don't play that game.
With friends, with business partners, with your wife, you don't play a game anywhere.
No, I don't play that game.
How did you learn that? To like
Because
detach
I
your
saw
triggers,
it
like
over
emotional
and
triggers.
over and over and over again. Saw it over and over again. So
Did you used to be that way and you saw it, or you just saw it from other people?
Luckily for me, I was able to observe a lot. And I had this situation unfold. So I got a new book coming out, which is, I explain this situation. Yeah. I was in a SEAL platoon. I was a follower, so I was like, I was a one cruise wonder, so I'd been on one deployment, but still not super experienced.
Yeah.
And we had a platoon commander that was very inexperienced and had a massive ego. And so this is a bad combination.
That's scary.
So what did he do? He would say, we're doing it this way, this is who we're going to take, this is the mission, this is the plan we're going to use. He would force all of that down our throats. Not just mine, but everyone. Even guys that were experienced, even guys that had way more experience than him. He would force these plans down our throats. And what do you think our attitude is? The attitude that you just explained earlier.
Yeah.
We were totally, hey, this guy sucks, this guy's got a big ego, he doesn't listen to anyone else, he's horrible.
You didn't respect him, yeah.
And eventually we had a mutiny against that guy.
Wow.
We had a mutiny. We rebelled against him and said, we're not going to work for this guy.
Really? How often does that happen in Navy?
Never. Hardly ever.
Holy
I mean,
cow.
that's the only mutiny that I saw in my 20 years.
It was
in the SEAL
that
teams.
bad, though.
Was that situation. So we have this mutiny. And that was bad. And at the time I was sitting there looking, and I actually had an okay relationship with the boss,
Yeah.
because I'm a person that even as a new SEAL, I realized, you got to build a relationship with the guy that you're working with. You got to make sure that you can talk to them, that they'll talk to you, that you understand what they want. It's like, you got to do that.
Baseline of like and respect.
Smart thing to do.
Yeah.
So this unfolds, and of course, even though I had a relationship with the guy, I didn't want to work for him because he was horrible.
Right.
So he gets fired, and I'm watching it going, wow, that was weird, because why did we hate that guy so much? Well, the reason was because he didn't listen to anyone. Everything was his way. He didn't treat us with respect. He was one of those guys that, like, you take out the garbage. Hey, when we're traveling in a van, the front seat is left open for me. That was like one of his things, right? So all of us like, what are you talking about? So none of us wanted to follow him. And that stood out very starkly to me. Then, when he got fired, a new platoon commander came in to take his place. And this platoon commander that came in to take his place was an awesome guy, had this great reputation as being a badass SEAL. And I didn't know him, but everyone knew his name.
Wow.
And he came in to take over, and I was kind of like, oh, dang, we're about to get tightened up, the guy's getting sent in here to fix us. So he shows up, and I'm expecting this total beast to come in. And he's he's not a huge guy. He's got like a nice smile on his face. Very, not quiet, but not loud, just kind of a humble guy. And he says something along the lines, hey, I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, that's weird. And well, then it turns out when we got a training mission that we were going to go on, like the very first one, he's like, hey, you guys, here's the mission. You guys come up with a plan. And we're like, wow. And
But you're supposed to tell us the plan,
yes.
right?
Yep. Because that's what we've been used to. And by the way, this guy had incredible experience, combat experience.
Yeah.
He'd had
pro.
just about every job in a SEAL platoon that you can have. And there he was telling us to come up with a plan. And we loved this guy. And we would do anything for him.
Wow.
So when I saw that stark contrast between these two leaders, one of them who was arrogant and one of them who was humble, that left a mark on me that never went away.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What is the most important relationship every person has in the world? Is it with their intimate partner, their best friend, their boss, their parents, their kids? What do you think is the most important relationship that we all are going to face?
You know, I think that's a weird question.
Sorry
because
for the weirdness.
Yeah, no, it's just a weird question because as I was thinking about the context of it, all these relationships that you have, I mean, obviously you've got your spouse, right? That's who you're going to live with forever. That's okay. So that's
big.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're working. How long are you working every day? You know, people are working 10 hours a day. If they don't have good relationships with the people they're working with, that's a problem. So I don't think it's mutually exclusive that you need to have a great relationship and none of the other relationships matter. It's like, no, you have a bunch of relationships and you should nurture and build those relationships with everyone because that's what's important, right? That is what's important. You know, when you talk about whatever you were saying earlier about the hole and all this stuff, it's like, hey, if you have good that's the big hole.
Yeah.
If you don't have any relationships with people, then you don't really have anything.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to be alone with a nice car, right? That's great. It's cool. You're going to be alone in a nice house. That's great. But you won't be happy.
Yeah.
Right? That you got a nice car. That's fun for like a week.
Right.
So I think
They're all important,
all those relationships are important.
What about the relationship with ourselves? How do we develop a stronger bond or relationship with ourselves? Again, it might be a weird question, but
Yeah, you're coming at me with weird questions.
I
today.
know. I'd just like to go out there. Right? How do you build a relationship with your own self personally? How do you build it with yourself? Do you have conversations with yourself to build a relationship with you? Do you reflect on
What do you mean by
certain-
relationship with you?
Well, we have relationships with other people.
Right.
And I feel like we also have conversations and a relationship with ourselves, the way we feel about ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we show up for our needs, our emotions. Is that something you think about, or am I all?
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Relationship
with
is just
self.
a concept.
Yeah.
I don't think about this concept a lot.
Okay.
Now there might be something that I should be thinking about, right?
Yeah, I'm curious.
How
Do you
do
have a conversation with yourself daily or weekly or monthly where you check in and you ask yourself, am I okay? Am I doing the things I want to do? Am I enjoying this process? Am I loving who I am? Do I respect myself? You know, the relationship and the conversation with self. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I think about those things in a formal way. And part of this, because I understand, I think I understand where you're going with this. So let me explain this to you. When you're in charge of a military unit, you have something called commander's intent, which is, hey, on this mission, the overall thing that I'm trying to get accomplished is this thing, whatever that thing is. It's called commander's intent. And it's really the most important thing that everyone needs to understand. And when I was a leader of a SEAL platoon or a leader of a task unit, I didn't always have to say what the commander's intent was because I knew and they knew. They knew me well enough that if we were doing this type of mission, they knew what the most important thing was. So I should still say it, but everybody knew. My guys could not hear a word from me go out on a mission and know what overall was important to me. So the reason I say that is because I feel like I have the same thing with myself, where I don't need to reinforce the fact that, hey, I'm here, am I doing a good job? I know what I'm trying to do. I know what I expect of myself. So I'm not having that conversation every day. I will say, to your point, if I felt like I was looking around saying, wait a second, something's wrong here, right? Something's wrong. If I had a SEAL platoon that did something on a mission that I didn't want them to do, the next mission I'd be like, okay guys, here's the most important thing.
Oh, right. They weren't clear.
They weren't clear. So I think if I found myself in a position where I was waking up every day going, man, this is not where I want to be, or man, I don't feel good about this, then I would say, okay, what's my intent right now? What is the intent? What's the goal? What am I trying to get? Who am I trying to be? Then I might have to go back and kind of reestablish those things. So does that make sense to you? Because again, this isn't something that I think about it, and I guess what I'm trying to say, it's so deeply embedded in me.
You don't have to say it to
that
yourself.
I'm not saying it to myself.
When you transition from SEAL to, I mean, let me make sure I'm saying the terms right. Are you transitioning from SEAL to, is it former SEAL? What's the actual language? So
I just retired. I'm not
retired
like
SEAL.
one of these
Gotcha.
people that says like,
I'll make sure.
How dare you? No, it's all good.
So retired SEAL, did you have any challenge with identity or a clear mission after you retired of what you were going to be doing? Was that a struggle for you in that 6 months, year, 2 year period?
No.
It was simple, it was clear?
No, I started working with companies about 6 months before I retired.
Gotcha.
And if that wouldn't have happened, I was going to be surfing and doing jiu-jitsu. I own a gym in San Diego, and I was going to be doing that, which was totally good with me. I was stoked to be doing that and hanging out with my family a bunch. Then this whole thing started to unfold, and as that unfolded, I did get on board. Now, what's good about your question, I'm sorry for criticizing you a couple times on weird questions, but what's good about your question is I talk about this with veterans all the time, is when you get out of the military, you need a new mission.
You need
right?
a new identity.
You need a new
mission.
I don't know if it's a new identity, but yes, I believe you're right. Like, people can wrap too much of themselves around their identity as an athlete, right?
Yeah.
I played arena football. That's me. Like, that's not you, right? Is it?
But a lot of guys, I struggled with this for about a year and a half.
So there you
after,
go.
And a lot of guys that were friends of mine, they lived on the glory days.
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah,
assuming there's a lot of SEALs, retired SEALs, who probably have lived on the glory days.
Yeah, you gotta look at it and be like, okay, and if that's what you want to do, like I had a friend when I was at SEAL Team 2, and he was getting closer to retirement. I was like, what are you gonna do when you retire? And he's like, I'm gonna be the fat retired guy down the street talking about what it was like.
The glory
with
days,
teams.
yeah.
And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's what he wanted to do, hang out with his family, and he did what he wanted to do with his life. That's cool. Like, good. But what's bad is if you don't, because that's a mission. Right? The mission is I'm going to hang out with my family. I'm going to, enjoy. That's cool. That's a mission. What's not a mission is like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what my meaning is. I don't know what my purpose is. That can be a problem. So to your point, yes, identifying what your new mission is going to be, you should do that.
Yeah.
And then people say, well, what if I can't think of a new mission? Then my answer is, well, go help someone.
That's a good one.
Well, thank you.
If
you're
be in service.
If you get out of the military, or you get done with a job, or you get done playing arena football and you don't know what else to do, because let's face it, there's some other things that are coming. Like when you got done playing arena football, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I need money, I need a house, So like that becomes a mission, right? But let's say, like when you retire from the military, you got a retirement check coming in. You're not rich, but you can survive, or you make a bunch of money doing something. Then you can't let yourself float around in that arena. You got to figure out what your new mission is. And if you can't figure out what your new mission is, the other thing that can happen is, well, I got money because I got this job that I don't like, but that's not my mission. Okay, if you can't think of what your mission is going to be, go help someone. Go find someone to help, and that will become your mission. And in that mission, you'll find. Not only will you benefit a group of people or a person or some other human beings in the world, but you'll start to recognize where you can improve yourself and bigger parts of the world.
Love that. What do you think what is the biggest challenge that most people are facing right now in our world of why they have anger, resentment, frustration that they're not on the mission that they want to be doing? What is the challenge that most people are facing internally or emotionally or mentally that holds them back from having a clear sense of purpose, fulfillment?
Do you think it's weird to ask a question about most people? Like, what's holding most people back? It seems like I talk to so many people, and I know you do too, and like different people have different things that are problematic for them.
Yes.
That If you wanted me to answer that question to the best of my ability, I would say what is preventing most people from moving in the direction that they want to move is a lack of discipline. And no one wants to hear that answer. It's the harshest answer.
Yeah.
It's
not sexy.
It's
not fun.
Yeah, it's not cool. It's not good clickbait. Because the reason it's not good clickbait is because, well, you can put this as clickbait. The one reason most people don't succeed. Right? But then as soon as you click on that clickbait and then it says discipline, they don't even read it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to hear it.
They went the easy way.
Yeah, because what they actually, when they see that word discipline, it's actually a slap in the face because they know it's true. They actually know it's true.
Discipline in what ways of their life?
Discipline in your life. In which way should we not have discipline?
Sure.
Right? If you want to make progress in your life, you got to have discipline. That's how you get there. Discipline is the root of all good qualities.
Yeah.
What are you going to get without discipline? Are you going to be in good physical shape without discipline? Are you going to be financially successful without discipline?
No.
Are you going to become more intellectually powerful without discipline?
No.
Can you think of any other goals that I could possibly achieve without discipline? If you have them, please let me know because I'm going to jump into them.
I also think discipline gives you the most self-respect, belief in yourself, confidence.
For sure.
It builds those qualities of like, yeah, I got this. I can do something hard consistently, and I can resist temptation or delay gratification.
Very true. That's true, and that's a very interesting point that you bring up because when you take a military unit or any team of any kind, you take a team of any kind and you want to give them more confidence and give them more pride, what do? You put them in challenging situations that require them to come together and be disciplined as a team, and then they become stronger and they become better and they develop pride and confidence. Those are all positive things. So what do you do as an individual human being? It's the same exact thing. The tougher things you go through, the more confidence you're going to have. The more confidence you have, the better you're going to get. Can you go too far with that? Yes, you can. You can let your ego get out of control, and you can believe all the crap that you're being told. Hey, that was great. You did great. It's like, no, actually, I did okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going to work and try and make myself better.
So there's extreme discipline.
Yes, there is absolutely extreme discipline.
Yeah.
There's people that are so disciplined that
they have no joy.
They have no joy. They can't have fun anymore. That is the minority.
Yeah.
The minority is, hey, I have so much discipline that I'm unhappy. Right? That's a minority. There are a few people like that. There are a few people like that. I'm sure I know some. I'm sure you know some.
Yeah.
The other end of the spectrum is like, I have so much freedom, but my life is a disaster because I do whatever I want. You know who does whatever they want? Homeless people on the streets that are addicted to drugs.
Yeah, lazy people.
They're doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
They have total freedom, but they become a slave. They become a slave to their addiction. They become a slave to their financial situation. They become a slave to their emotions. All those things are negative. The right place is the balance, and what most people, the majority of people, need a little bit more discipline in their life. So if you were to ask me, and I wasn't to attack you about asking me a weird question, what's the number one thing? Discipline. That's why I wrote the Discipline Equals Freedom field manual. Discipline equals freedom. You want freedom in your life? You want to achieve what it is you want to achieve? How do you do that? You do it through discipline. You do it through hard work. You do it by knowing what it is you're supposed to do and then actually doing it.
Yeah. Do you, and I'm assuming you're going to say that, yes, to apply discipline in every area of your life. It's not just I'm disciplined in my nutrition and fitness, but discipline in relationships, discipline in finance, discipline. So it's learning and mastering multiple skills that you're going to be disciplined at. Is what
I agree with everything you just said except for the word mastering.
Okay.
Because we're not going to master anything, right? We're not going to master anything. It's very difficult. Like, somebody asked me that on social media. How do you master discipline? I'm like, you don't. You don't. You keep working at it though.
Every day.
Yes.
You continue to improve and grow.
You better.
Yeah.
You got the opportunity.
What happens if we stop being disciplined in our life? If we think we've made it, we think we've achieved something, and we stop repeating the discipline patterns that got us there?
This is a rhetorical question because we all know the answer. You stop being disciplined, you're gonna start to devolve and become less and become worse and become weaker and become lazier and become more pathetic as a human being.
What is a Navy SEAL's guide to eliminating self-doubt? What are the things that you saw other guys do really well or that you did to learn how to overcome being insecure, lacking the confidence of something, and just overall doubting yourself, that everyday human beings could apply on a daily basis?
Bro, I think that we all need to come to the realization that we're all made of the same stuff, man. Freaking dirt. Mm-hmm. That's all. We are all made of the same stuff. So, Lewis, you are an awesome dude. You have accomplished so much, man. But you know why you have done? You have used your tools properly. Yeah. You don't have anything that I don't, and I hope you don't mind me using us as a direct example. Sure. You don't have anything that I don't have from a physical. I have a strong, healthy body and a strong, healthy mind. We're made of the exact same stuff. You have utilized your tools, your time, the people around you, your speech, your relationships, all these universal tools that we all have access to. We all have access to time. We all have access to people around us.
Resources at some level.
Yeah, those are, and you can't use the argument that, oh, well, say, take time, for example. Say time is a tool that helps you accomplish your mission. Well, yeah, you may have more time than me, but take and look at it in the natural world as, say, we both had a hammer. The hammer represents time. We need to drive a nail through this table right here. Yep. Your hammer's bigger than mine, so obviously you're going to drive the nail faster than me. But I have a hammer too, even though it's smaller. I can still drive that nail flush with this table right here. So it's not an excuse to say, well, Lewis has so much more resources than I have. It doesn't matter, dude. We're made of the same stuff.
Yeah, you can still get the job done.
We can still get the job done. So for me, that's essential is to stop looking at each other like, somebody, and look at me, for example, bro. I'm some old country dude from North Georgia. How could I have ever dreamed to go and serve at the tip of the spear with the best men America has to offer in the United States Fighting Forces? Right. How could I have ever dreamed of going to do that? It makes no logical sense. But even back in those days, I had the same viewpoint. We're all made of the same stuff, bro.
How do we, what can we do on a daily basis besides having that understanding of the tools and time to, again, overcome that doubt that we have, overcome the insecurity or the fear or the judgment we put on ourselves in order to have more belief in ourselves to accomplish our mission? Is it you should have a set of routines and habits that you honor your word to every day, and you are your word to yourself of what you say you're to do? Is it doing hard things every day that builds more belief? Is it the words you use as well? Like, what's the ingredients?
That's an excellent combination, Lewis.
I like those.
It sounds like you answered that question, bro.
But is there anything else that
so I'm very hesitant, to give advice. I never give advice. I can tell you what I do based around those things that you just said. I have a routine. I get up every morning at about 6 in the morning. The first part of my day, I dedicate to my God. So I give him the first fruits of my day. I honor him in that way because I feel like he expects that of me.
But through prayer?
Through prayer or reading. For me, it's the Bible. So that's what I do. It could be for 5 minutes. It could be for 45 minutes. But that's how I start my day every single day. If I don't do that, I'm screwed up, dude.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So, I do that. Then I spend 4 hours a day training. That may sound crazy, but I train for 4 hours a day. And that right there, that's where all my perspective comes from. That's where my outlook on life comes from. During that 4-hour block, I am honing my body and my soul. my mind, will, and emotions. That's where the battle is in the soul. What do you want to do? What do you think you want to do? How do you feel about something? Those are the things that we need to get a hold of, right? But when you're out doing something hard, self-inflicted adversity, it hones that soul portion of us down at the same time that it's training our body. So the two are very intertwined.
So giving you energy, keeping you healthy, keeping you lean, sharp, it provides that for the body.
It provides that for the body.
And the soul and the mind, right?
The soul being the mind, will, and emotions, it makes you force your mind, your will, what do you want to do, and your emotions, how do you feel about this activity and this pain?
Because you don't want to do it.
Exactly. But when you go out and do it, you're honing that portion of you as a human, and then moving forward from there.
Wait, so that's every day, 7 days a week, or is it 5 days a week, training 4 hours a day?
Yeah, I train.
7 days a week.
I set that block. Now the intensity may vary.
Right.
It may just be a 4-hour hike in the woods.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
It's not a ultra marathon every day.
No, totally. I may only cover 10 miles in that 4 hours. I may cover 30 miles.
It's always a run. Is it something else? A swim?
It could
hike,
be a
bike?
combination. It could be weight training. I do weight train. Strength training twice a week at least. But
why 4 hours? Why not 1, 3, 5? Is there a number with 4?
Because there's no number. I mean,
no reason with 4?
I feel like that's what I need personally to perform on the level that I want to perform and to maintain the perspective that I have on life.
Powerful. Okay. So after that?
After that, it's my work time. From noon to the rest of the day, up until 5, 6, sometimes 7 o'clock. That's my work time. And so I take all that perspective and all that energy and all that good stuff that I get out there on that run or that weightlifting or whatever, and then I transfer that over into my work time.
Wow, that's probably powerful. You got so much clarity.
That's it, brother.
And you get all your best ideas from those 4 hours. You probably let go of all the pain or frustration or anger or whatever you got in your head that's festering from the day before. If you have anything, that clears out.
That's it, brother.
You purge that stuff. You get back to a peaceful place.
Yep, so I took care of my spirit in that first 30 minutes, take care of my body, soul, and that next 4 hours, the rest of the day, man, I can hammer some stuff out.
Wow.
I can put down some, so that's the one thing, that's my biggest fear.
What?
As things grow. My biggest fear is that this telephone and this phone text messages and social media, my biggest fear is that stuff is one day going to maybe tarnish the clarity of my perspective. Is going to take away from that 4 hour block of time. Because if I don't put the time in to myself, all that Instagram, all that stuff, none of that matters, because if I don't put that 4 hours into myself, the stuff that I put out on the back half of the day is not going to be as pure as it should be. So my biggest fear is losing that purity, man. And I just shouldn't say I fear it. I'm very conscious of it, man.
So you finish around 5, 6, 7, and then what's the evening look like?
That's my wife's time, man.
Yeah.
I love her more than anything else in the world.
Yeah.
So
how long have you been together?
Brooke and I have been together for 7 years now.
So you got married while you're in the Navy.
Yeah.
And was that challenging for her to be with someone who's off in war every day?
Oh, I wish you could ask her that question. I mean, I feel like it was more challenging for her than it was for me, And as a SEAL, you're gone, on average, I'd say 300 days out of the year. I mean, you're not at war that whole time. It's training, but it's a mix of both. And it's extremely difficult, man. Yeah, for sure. And she suffered from it, but luckily we're still together. And again, because of the adversity we went through in our marriage, it's the same thing, brother. The adversity we went through in our marriage, my wife had a very dangerous disease called addiction. She you know, she got wrapped up in that for a while, and we had to go through the process. I shouldn't say wrapped up. She was, you know, in it.
Yeah.
And it was bad, dude. And that's a whole nother story, man. But we had to go through that adversity together. And now we have the best freaking marriage on earth, man.
Wow.
You know? So.
What's the greatest lesson she's taught you while you were an active Navy SEAL and since your retirement?
Humility. Humility for 100%. She keeps me grounded, man. Yeah, she did that all, you know, because as a team guy, man, you're hanging out with active duty, you know, pipe hitting alpha males all day long. And you need somebody to pull you back down to earth sometimes. And even with ultra running, you know, I'm really competitive there. And I'm not a cocky person, dude, but if I start to get a little lofty with, you know, my speech or something like that, man, she'd snatch me right back down to where I need to be.
Okay.
So
humility has been the biggest lesson. What's something she that you've learned about her since you've left the Navy that has surprised you? That's different than when you were together in the Navy. Because you've had more time with her, I'm assuming.
I would say how talented she is. Like, I didn't get to pay enough attention to her talents when I was active duty. And now that I get to spend more time with her and she's getting to pursue some of her passions, it just has blown me away with how talented she is. So she loves photography. She's an awesome cook. And just her people skills, man. So that's the biggest thing.
What's the, do you have any regrets from anything in the 12 years? Or wish you could have gone longer? Because you had to retire essentially because of the hearing loss from all the bombs and
it was a whole combination of stuff.
a bunch of different things. They pretty much said.
So I was medically retired.
Gotcha. Yeah. Would you have stayed in it had you been perfectly healthy, 100%?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I would have definitely. I mean, I would have stayed in the teams and as long as they would have let me. I mean, you get to go to work with heroes every single day, bro. Why would you ever want to leave that? You know.
Wow.
Do I have any regrets? Nothing that really stands out, man. I really wouldn't change a thing.
You wish we would have found a few more walls to get behind, and a couple more rocks.
No, man, because it's all brought me to where I am now.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here talking to Lewis Howes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, I don't deserve to be here, bro.
Yeah.
But the whole chain of events have brought me to where I am now,
meeting
present
Jesse,
in this
meeting other
day,
people,
man. And I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal. I'm just using you as an example because we're sitting right here,
Sure.
face to face. You know.
What were some of the coolest moments that you got to experience where you're actually in the moment thinking, man, I'm just a kid from this town in Georgia, and now I don't want to speak out of line for you of what you've told me in the past, but now I'm doing this, and now I'm doing this, and this is crazy. Did you ever have any of those moments, or were you just...
The coolest moments that I've had in my life have been since I retired this past January.
Really?
They have, totally, man. So much stuff has happened, dude. Just like the vision I told you about, and being able to let go and move forward into this awesome future.
I mean, not holding on to the identity of the past.
Exactly,
man.
man.
This is who I was, this is my dream, this is my whole life, now it's over.
That's
not
it,
holding
brother.
on to like the glory days.
Yeah, so the coolest moments have definitely been in this last 8-10 months. Wow. The coolest moments of my life, dude.
Really?
Yeah, man. You know, and not to take away from what we did in the teams, but that was a job. It got to the point, and I think all guys get that. It's no different than, you know, you going to do what you do with your group every day. Yeah. It was a job, dude. We had a mission. We went and did it. Skydiving, diving, that was all the job, man. But now it's fun. And it's like all these exciting things have happened, and just the network, getting to know people like you, like Jesse, you know, Scott Worthington out in New Zealand, getting to know, create this network of just awesome individuals, and it's been amazing, bro.
Wow.
So I would say those are. I know that doesn't directly
That's
answer
cool.
your question, but
Yeah, it's all good. In here, you talk about like really diving into pain and like
Yes.
embracing pain and looking for the pain.
Right.
And I think there's like there's a safe pain, and then there's probably an unsafe pain of just like jumping off a building and, you know, whatever, and
Right.
trying to land on 20 floors or something. It's probably not the safe way to do
No.
things. But doing 200